Chapter 46-47. However, Xiaohua thought to himself, that day when I fell into the eye of the sea in the West Sea, I escaped from the spatial vein in the Liao River. Although the Liao River has been sealed off by the innate five directions Great Formation, there might be some small spatial veins that can escape the seal of the four directions Great Formation. Moreover, I obtained the Yuzhou Cauldron in Liao River. I remember Sun Jian said that the places guarded by the 9 provinces cauldrons are mostly connected to the 9 underworlds. Now that the 9 provinces cauldrons are gone, maybe the 4 directions Great Formation has sealed the 9 underworlds. If I want to break this 4 directions Great Formation, I naturally have to explore Liao River. Thinking about this, Xiaohua flew towards Liao River again, although he had already carefully explored the entire Liao River. Xiaohua landed on Liao River and didn't explore again. Instead, he flew several hundred li away to find the place where he obtained the Yuzhou Cauldron. Unfortunately, when he arrived there, Xiaohua's body couldn't fly anymore. When Xiaohua entered the bottom of Liao River again, his divine sense swept over and looked regretfully at the place that was almost within reach. He smiled bitterly and said, Dongfang Qiong is really good at scheming. This innate 4 directions Great Formation just happens to be where the Yuzhou Cauldron is suppressing the netherworld energy. I can't even get half an inch closer. Xiaohua had already used his illusion breaker eye to see where Liao River was. He knew that this place was also airtight. The water stopped flowing here and couldn't pass through at all. After thinking for a while, Xiaohua patted his forehead and unwillingly opened his illusion breaker eye again. He looked at the place where the Yuzhou Cauldron was. The southwest was where the white clouds and the flame clouds intersected. Xiaohua's eyes were filled with clouds and he couldn't see any gaps at all. When Xiaohua activated his illusion breaker eye, a silver-white beam of light roared and fell into the clouds. The clouds were still like cotton and didn't move at all. They didn't even rotate. Forget it. Xiaohua knew that he had hit a wall again. He withdrew the beam of light from his illusion breaker eye and was about to leave. It was at this moment that Xiaohua suddenly froze. His entire body trembled as he cried out in shock. How? How is this possible? Xiaohua hurriedly closed his delirium eye and slowly moved to the side. After flying for another 30 meters, he stopped again and opened his delirium eye again. He saw a layer of silt in front of him. Xiaohua's delirium eye actually saw a familiar blue jade necklace. Isn't this the water-phase jade luo of the Xinyuan water control flag that Xiaohua saw in the Xinyuan water palace at the bottom of the river? This jade necklace was also in the shape of a cloud. It was extremely harmonious with the white clouds and the flame clouds. If Xiaohua hadn't landed here to look carefully, he definitely wouldn't have found it. Impossible! Impossible! Xiaohua's body trembled as he thought to himself, this place should be the location of the Yuzhou Cauldron. This Xiao has already carefully examined it before. A few days ago, this water blue jade was definitely not here. Moreover, this Xianyuan water control flag's Ingluo is a great enemy of this Xiao's devil saber. If it had been there before, this Xiao's devil saber would have reacted. In other words, this water phase jade luo only appeared recently. However, this water phase jade luo belongs to the Xinyuan water control flag, and the flag is in Xen Xian's hands. Xen was also imprisoned in the Heaven's Punishment Prison crystal by that damned Gaochen geezer. How could this flag be here? Could it be? Could it be? Thinking of this, Xiaohua suddenly recalled Tai Bai Jingxing's words at the end of the sutra praying in extreme bliss. Xiaohua suddenly became excited and thought, could it be that Gaochen geezer actually placed the new Heaven's Punishment Prison crystal here? He wanted to wait until after the sutra praying in extreme bliss and let Tai Bai Jingxing speak. He used the sutra praying ceremony as an excuse to release Xen Xian from the Heaven's Punishment Prison crystal? Damn it, could it be that this Xiao wronged Immortal Emperor Gaochen? Yes, it's possible. He originally wanted to do so, but because of Xiao Mao's repeated appearances that disrupted his plans, he changed his mind and didn't pardon Xen Xian. Moreover, it was because he knew that Xen Xian's Xinyuan water control flag was here that he was so calm. He was waiting for the reactions of the Supremes, waiting for this Xiao's reaction. This bastard actually had such a backup plan. Hee hee, If that's the case, then this Xiao has given this Xiao a good opportunity. This Xiao doesn't need to look at Immortal Emperor Gaochun's face anymore. This Xiao will find the new Heaven's Punishment Prison Crystal and see what that bastard has to say. That's not right. If XN was imprisoned in the Heaven's Punishment Prison Crystal, how could the Jade Luo from the Xianyuan Water Control Flag enter this place? Oh, I see. It must be that XN used the Xianyuan Water Control Flag to send the Jade Luo through the Heaven's Punishment Prison Crystal to seek help from the outside. If anyone could see the Jade Luo, then they would naturally be able to find the Heaven's Punishment Prison Crystal. And today, the four clans just happened to place the innate Four Corners Grand Formation on top of the Heaven's Punishment Prison Crystal to suppress XN, so the Jade Luo was integrated into the innate Four Corners Grand Formation. The special thing is that if I'm not mistaken, the Xianyuan Water Control Flag is one of the innate Five Directions flags, and this Jade Luo is one of the clouds in the innate Five Directions Grand Formation. It is normal for the Jade Luo to be able to enter this place. If that's the case, then I only need to find the Heaven's Punishment Prison Crystal and rescue XN. Wouldn't her Xianyuan Water Control Flag be able to break the innate Four Corners Grand Formation? But right now, the Heaven's Punishment Prison Crystal is not inside the innate Four Corners Grand Formation, but below it. How can I obtain it? Xiaohua closed his delirium eyes and landed on the bottom of Liao River. His hand pinched his chin as he pondered. After half a cup of tea's time, Xiaohua's mouth revealed a trace of a smile. Subsequently, Xiaohua called Tian Ren, Thunderbolt Immortal, and Wen Chu to the side and told them the cause of the matter. When the doppelgangers heard this, they were all overjoyed. Xiaohua then said, "Fellow Taoists, I'll have to trouble you to confine the area within a dozen miles of this place. Don't let Gaochun Old Man and Dipankra Old Buddha see anything." Alright. Celestial Being, Thunderbolt Immortal, and Wen Chu knew what Xiaohua wanted to do, so they didn't dare to be careless. They flew back for several miles and activated their divine abilities to seal the area around them. Xiaohua scanned his surroundings with his divine sense. Seeing that he was absolutely safe, he slightly extended his left arm. The demonic energy rushed out from his arm, quickly covering his entire body. In a moment, a demonic god Xiaohua appeared, and the demonic blade murder appeared from Xiaohua's left arm. Seeing the devil's saber appear, Xiaohua didn't hesitate. With a schwa sound, it fell on top of the innate four-way great array. However, the place where the demonic saber murder landed was precisely the few pieces of aqua blue jade above the Four Directions great array. These aqua blue jade were different from the flame clouds and white clouds that formed the great array. Although the clouds under the demonic saber murder were swallowed by the demonic saber murder, the surrounding clouds swarmed over, leaving no gap at all. However, the aqua blue jade beads where the demonic saber murder landed actually revealed their shape in an instant, and then withered and disappeared like a flash in the pan. However, just a moment after the jade beads disappeared, woo-woo, an extremely large number of jade beads began to surge out crazily. These jade beads could be seen with the naked eye, and they pounced towards the demonic saber murder. And the demonic saber murder didn't need Xiaohua to activate it at all. With the AO, demonic energy and demonic light were produced, violently pouncing towards the aqua blue jade beads. Hundreds of thousands of years of suppression had already made the demonic saber murder and the Xianyuan Water Control Flag become mortal enemies. When they met each other's aura, they immediately began to fight and kill. Although he knew that the Xianyuan Water Control Flag wasn't afraid of the demonic saber murder, Xiaohua still carefully controlled the demonic saber murder's demonic energy. But contrary to Xiaohua's expectations, in just half a cup of tea's time, the aqua blue jade beads suddenly flourished, gushing out more violently than a fountain. Within the gushing flow, XN's joyful mood was revealed. XN. Xiaohua was also ecstatic, hastily putting away the demonic saber murder. The aqua blue jade beads didn't disappear, but instead surged even more. In the time it took to smoke a cigarette, the aqua blue jade beads covered an area of several li, forcibly pushing the flame clouds and the white clouds apart. Xiaohua's figure fell into the jade beads. The jade beads didn't stop Xiaohua, but instead dodged one after another, revealing a gap that was neither big nor small. Xiaohua, with an excited mood, rushed into the gap, and saw that the jade beads had given birth to another paperweight that was several li in size. This paperweight was golden in color, and its surface was engraved with countless ancient inscriptions. These inscriptions emitted light and shadows, and countless Confucian cultivators' fortunes were like dragons swimming in this light and shadow. These dragons' movements seemed to have no order, but it was extremely mysterious. It tightly sealed the area under the paperweight, and it basically couldn't leak out any aura. Moreover, under these light and shadow, there were even more mountains, rivers, and plants falling down. Could it be that there were tens of thousands of these overlapping images? However, right now, outside of the paperweight, there were several layers of flame clouds and white clouds twisting around. The originally mysterious dragon's fortunes were forcibly blocked, and the seamless overlapping light and shadow also had a few flaws. The aqua-blue jade beads were rushing out from these flaws. Fellow Taoist Wuxia. Xiaohua saw this paperweight and felt a thick imperial aura, as well as a mountainous power of order. Xiaohua immediately understood that this was an item from Immortal Emperor Go Chen's Immortal Palace to suppress the Tian Fa prison crystal. He didn't hesitate and anxiously said in his mind, "Quickly come here." When Xiaohua's heart was moved, Wenchu's figure flashed and appeared next to Xiaohua. After seeing the paperweight and the three clouds on the side of the paperweight, Wenchu couldn't help but smile. "Congratulations, fellow Taoist. This is the Jiji paperweight on the jade table in the Ling Yun Palace. It is used to place the spring and autumn brush used by the Immortal Emperor to write decrees." This old man heard from Sun Jian that it was the Immortal Emperor's favorite. Under this Jiji paperweight, it must be XN. Is there even a need to say it? Xiaohua smiled and said, "The Xinyuan water control flag has appeared, so how could XN not be here?" Old man Gaochen was too cruel. He actually threw the Heaven's Punishment prison crystal here and even used some bullshit paperweight to suppress it. No wonder even the Celestial Empress couldn't find XNXIN's aura. No wonder this guy isn't in a hurry. It seems like this is his backup plan. Chapter 46-48. Now that we've found XNXIN's whereabouts, everything will be solved. Let that old man Gaochen just watch. While speaking, Wenchu raised his hand and clapped. 5-colored true energy gushed out. For safety's sake, Wenchu added 3-colored true energy into the 5-colored true energy. When the 5-colored true energy turned into a huge hand and slammed down, the fortune roared like a dragon and broke free from the paperweight, pouncing on Wenchu. Under the attack of the fortune of Confucian cultivators, Wenchu's huge hand showed signs of collapsing. "Ha!" Xiaohua smiled and said, "I've said it before. The fortune of Confucian cultivators is just a strand of Reverend Yun's qi. Although Reverend Yun is not here, I can still control it. Otherwise, wouldn't my title of Dragon Master be in vain?" While speaking, Xiaohua opened his mouth and was about to spit out a dragon breath. But after thinking for a while, he reached out his hand and grabbed the red dragon crown, putting it on his head with a flip of his hand. Oh! The brilliance of the red dragon crown fell, and lines of dragon runes emerged from Xiaohua's body. He let out a long roar that sounded like a dragon's roar. Then, he spat out a mouthful of dragon breath that landed on the dragon-like fortune. Roar! The dragon-like fortune was also very strong. It roared and pounced on the dragon breath, and in just a moment, it was entangled with the dragon breath. Ha! Wenchu laughed heartily. His large hand fell from the side. Under the 5-colored cloud, the light that was lifted turned into many inscriptions on the armor. They fell like dead tadpoles. When these inscriptions landed on the aqua-blue jade, they turned into lonely strokes that the huge 5-colored hand fell on the paperweight and grabbed it. Then Wenchu roared, "Rise!" Rumble! Under the Liao River, a loud rumble could be heard. The golden paperweight was slowly pulled out from the ground by Wenchu. The whole underground shook, and the heaven and earth order rushed out of its confinement uncontrollably. The Liao River, which was like stagnant water, suddenly became a huge wave. However, under the confinement of Celestial Being and Lightning Immortal, the huge wave calmed down in a moment. Of course, how could immortal Emperor Gaochen and the others not notice Liao Zhang's momentum and the heaven and earth order that represented the immortal palace? Especially since the source of the order of heaven and earth was at the bottom of Liao River? Immortal Emperor Gaochen's expression changed. Seeing Wen Chu pull out the paperweight, Xiaohua's heart beat wildly. He opened his mouth, and with a roar, he swallowed the destiny that was fighting the dragon breath into his stomach. Then he waved his hand, and the five-colored hand of lightning fell and merged with Wen Chu's five-colored hand of true energy. Rise! Xiaohua also roared and pulled out the golden paperweight all of a sudden. Then, Xiaohua decisively released his consciousness and rolled it on the golden paperweight. Whoosh! Instantly, the paperweight on the immortal palace's Lingyun Hall changed to Zhao's surname. With the disappearance of the Shiji paperweight, the boundless water-blue-colored pearls crazily gushed out. Xiaohua's figure once again flashed and was about to rush in, wanting to find a new Heaven's Punishment prison crystal to imprison. At this time, a graceful figure flashed inside the pearls. With a smile on her face, Xen appeared in front of Xiaohua with tears in her eyes. For some unknown reason, seeing the smile on Xen's face and the tears at the corner of her eyes, Xiaohua's heart was filled with great joy. It was as if his previous actions of forcing the southern heavenly gate, fighting at the Sunset Cliff, and now being trapped at the Longevity Town, everything he had done had turned into fleeting clouds. It was as if nothing in this world could compare to a trace of a smile from this woman before him. For the sake of half a teardrop at the corner of her eye, he was willing to use all of his abilities to erase it. Xian, Xiaohua called out in a low voice. His right hand reached out and pulled Xen into his embrace. Xian clearly agreed and did not resist at all. It meekly threw itself into Xiaohua's embrace and blissfully placed its face on Xiaohua's chest. Its pair of hands also circled around Xiaohua. On its left hand, there was a small flag. Wasn't that the Xinyuan water control flag? When the two of them met, their gazes only met for a moment. They only said two words and then each other's warmth. All words were powerless and pale at this moment. The pearls fluttered around the two of them. It was like Xian's shy and happy mood, and it was also like Xiaohua's peace of mind after embracing his lover. After half a cup of tea's time, Wen Chu coughed and said behind Xen, "Fellow immortal Xiao." Xen was shocked and hurriedly pushed Xiaohua away. She struggled out of Xiaohua's embrace with a red face and watery eyes. When Xen saw Wen Chu's cultivation, she couldn't help but turn pale with fright. She hurriedly bowed and said, "Junior." Xiaohua raised his hand and stopped Xen. He whispered, "No need to be polite with him. He's my good friend." Her hand took the opportunity to grab Xen's slightly warm and soft hand. "Ah? Why are you also?" Xen immediately realized Xiaohua's strength was unfathomable. She cried out in shock and tried to pull her hand out of Xiaohua's grasp. "Let's talk about it after we get out." Xiaohua couldn't bear to let go of Xen's hand. He firmly grasped Xen's hand and explained, "Right now, we're trapped in the innate four-way formation. Do we still need your Xinyuan water control flag to help us out?" When Xen first escaped, she thought everything in front of her was done by Xiaohua to save her. When she heard Xiaohua's words, she hurriedly looked up. With Xen's cultivation, she naturally could not see the connate four corners formation. However, as she waved the Xinyuan water control flag in her hand, the flaming clouds of the floating flame flag and the plain clouds of the white cloud-bound flag immediately appeared. Xen didn't say much and only asked, "How can I help you break the formation?" Xiaohua naturally didn't know how to break the formation. He was afraid that Xen's escape would attract the attention of the four great families and create some other variables. He only explained the situation of the innate four-way formation. In the end, he said, "Since your Xinyuan water control flag is one of the innate five-direction flags, this water-colored pearl can also be integrated into the innate four-way formation. Then, it might be able to create a flaw in the innate four-way formation." "I understand." Xen heard clearly and said with a sweet smile, "Don't worry, Xiao Lang. I've already successfully refined the Xinyuan water control flag. Facing the 4 almost ownerless 4-way flags, creating a flaw is as easy as flipping my hand. XNXN, you're awesome. Xiao Hua was overjoyed. Looking at XNXIN's smiling face, he couldn't help but raise his hand and use his left thumb to stroke XNXIN's dark eyebrows. Although this action wasn't as intimate as kissing, XNXN liked it very much. Her lips smiled like a crescent moon and she gently pulled her hand back. Xiao Lang, watch how I cast the spell. Okay. Xiao Hua smiled and nodded, but his figure was unwilling to leave XNXN even half a step. XNXN stole a glance at Wen Chu in the distance and fiercely glared at Xiao Hua a few times. However, seeing that Xiao Hua's face was as thick as a city wall and was unwilling to leave, XNXN was helpless. However, she felt even more sweetness in her heart. XNXN raised her hand. Without activating it, a faint 5-colored true qi gushed out from her arm and landed on the Xinyuan water control flag. When the Xinyuan water control flag received the true qi, it immediately flashed with a water blue color. As the flag fluttered, an endless amount of jade flew out and rushed toward Xiao Hua's head. There wasn't any sound, but as the jade flew past, the white clouds and flame clouds appeared like a tide and were squeezed to the sides. And in the middle of the jade, a gap of several tens of feet was created. Awesome! Xiao Hua praised and quickly kissed XNXIN's forehead. Although this kiss was like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water, XNXIN's face immediately turned crimson. Xiao Hua ignored XNXIN's rolling eyes and hurriedly said, XNXIN, when you break through the seal, listen to my explanation. I'm sure you know that this is the Liao River beside the Longevity Town. Today is the day when the sutra seeking of extreme bliss ends. I, Xiao Hua, and the Immortal Palace, Thunder Monastery, and Great Sage Hall are here to welcome Chuanzong's return. However, who would have thought that the 4 great families would lay down this early Heaven 4 cardinal formation, trapping the Immortal Emperor, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha, and the golden-winged Great Rock within. Hearing that the Immortal Emperor was here, a trace of panic appeared in XNXIN's eyes. Seeing this, Xiao Hua didn't dare to explain further. However, he could not explain and hurriedly said, Don't be afraid. I've already gone to the Immortal Palace to ask for your hand in marriage. The Immortal Emperor promised that as long as I can save you from the Heaven Punishment Prison Crystal, he would agree to meet up. Before Xiao Hua could finish speaking, XNXN was so embarrassed that his neck turned red. He hurriedly kicked Xiao Hua lightly, not allowing him to continue speaking. Xiao Hua had never treated Wen Chu as an outsider. He also didn't expect the calm and decisive XNXIN to be so shy. He hurriedly stopped and said, All right. I won't say any more. I'm just letting you know about the current situation. Moreover, from the looks of it, you're also His Majesty's backup plan. However, I've already discovered it. Now, I'll make him suffer in silence. Yes, I understand. XNXN nodded. I'll activate the Profound Origin Water Control Flag. Darling Xiao, you can inform His Majesty and the others to come over. Once there's a passage, we'll be able to escape. All right. Xiao Hua smiled and nodded. Then, he said to Wen Chu, Then, I'll have to trouble you, fellow Immortal. Go and inform Immortal Emperor Gaochen, the golden-winged Great Rock, and the Dipankara Archaic Buddha. All right. Wen Chu smiled and left. How could he not understand Xiao Hua's intentions? If Xiao Hua wanted to inform them, why would he need to leave? Xiao Hua only needed to inform the Heavenly Being and the Thunderbolt Hermit, and they would be able to inform Immortal Emperor Gaochen when they removed the restrictions. Seeing Wen Chu leave, Xiao Hua said in a low voice, XNXN, it's all my fault. I didn't expect you to do so much for me. It's all right. Seeing that there was no one around, XNXN regained her calm and smiled. Aren't you here now? I'm very happy. Give it a recommendation vote, collect it, or tip it. Thank you for all your support. Chapter 46-49. Then, are you still going back to the Immortal Palace? Xiao Hua hurriedly asked. This was what he wanted to ask. A trace of desolation and helplessness appeared in XNXIN's eyes. After thinking for a moment, he replied, Of course I don't want to. However, if there is no marriage agreement, no matchmaker, and no orders from my parents, I am really not suitable to stay by your side. After all, I'm still the 9th princess of the Immortal Palace. I can't let others laugh at me, and I can't embarrass His Majesty. Alright. Hearing XNXIN's first sentence, Xiao Hua felt relieved. He smiled and said, I won't make things difficult for you. That's great. As he spoke, XNXIN's little finger scratched Xiao Hua's palm as he whispered, if there's no one around, you can do this. But when His Majesty comes later, you can't do it. I know. Xiao Hua's heart was bursting with joy. He held XNXIN's soft hand a few times before letting go because Immortal Emperor Go Chen's clear gaze was sweeping over from afar. Your Majesty. XNXN didn't dare to be careless and quickly spoke after seeing Immortal Emperor Gao Chen's figure. Immortal Emperor Go Chen waved his hand and said, no need to be so courteous. I have suppressed you here to prevent any changes in the sutra seeking of extreme bliss. Yes, Your Majesty. XNXN was even more disappointed after hearing Immortal Emperor Go Chen's cold tone. She answered and activated the jade bracelet again. It was also at this moment that outside the jade bracelet, there was a sudden great tremor. The jade bracelet began to swirl in the air, and the several hundred feet wide passageway suddenly shrunk. Obviously, the 4 aristocratic families had already discovered that there was something wrong with the array, and had begun to activate the 4 square flags to encircle and suppress the Xinyuan water control flag. XNXN glanced at the slightly anxious Xiao Hua. Without any hesitation, he spat a mouthful of essence blood onto the Xinyuan water control flag. At this time, the flag didn't reject XNXIN's essence blood like it did at the beginning. Instead, after XNXIN's essence blood fell, it immediately produced a blood-colored jade. This jade was 3 times bigger than before. Moreover, this jade's blood-colored light seemed to be able to spread. In a moment, it had already dyed all the jade, and the nearby space was blood-red. Whoosh! Suddenly, a wave of awe-inspiring qi descended upon XNXIN's body. XNXN hurriedly called out, Darling Xiao, hearing that XNXN didn't call him Your Majesty, and instead called him Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua's heart was about to be drunk. He turned around and shouted, Your Majesty, leave quickly. All right. The Go Chin Immortal Emperor acknowledged. 5 colored radiances flickered around his body, and he transformed into a distorted silhouette as he dashed out of the tunnel. Behind him wasn't Sun Jian or Tai Bai Jinxing. Instead, it was the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Exalt. The Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Exalt nodded at XNXN before disappearing in a flash. After the Dipankara Archaic Buddha, it was naturally the golden-winged Great Rock. He let out a strange cry and blinked his eyes at Xiao Hua and XNXN before flapping his wings and rushing out of the tunnel. Then, the primordial chaos ancestor, Phoenix Wu, heavenly being, and the others flew over. Xiao Hua nodded slightly, and his clones left first. In the end, the primordial chaos ancestor cupped his hands toward Xiao Hua helplessly before flying out of the tunnel with the concealed Night Child and Taoist rider Crane. After these people left, Xiao Hua grabbed XNXIN's waist and said, Let's go. We'll leave first. There's no need to wait for the formation to be completely broken. Once His Majesty leaves, this earlier Heaven 4-way Grand Formation will be broken. Alright. XIN agreed obediently. A jade bracelet appeared beneath his feet and carried him and Xiao Hua out of the tunnel. As expected, after flying for a few hundred feet, sounds of mountains collapsing and the earth cracking could be heard from outside the jade bracelet. The entire tunnel expanded by dozens of times, and the pressure of the earlier Heaven 4-way Grand Formations suddenly disappeared. As XN waved the Xinyuan water control flag, the jade luo near the water slowly disappeared. Under the sunlight, Xiao Hua could see clearly that he and XN were already above Liao River. Currently, due to the earlier Heaven 4-way Grand Formation being broken, the Liao River's water that had been obstructed for several days gushed down like a flood. As it roared, the paddy fields by the shore were swept into the river. Damn it! Seeing this, Xiao Hua cursed inwardly. Not daring to delay, he waved his hand and took out the Kunlun mirror. In a flash of light, tens of thousands of Fortune Gate's disciples were released. When these disciples heard the battle cries in front of them, their blood boiled, and they prepared to use their magic power to fight. However, Xiaohua ordered, "Disciples, use your divine abilities to suppress the Liao River's water. Don't let the river water reach the shore." That the group of Fortune Gate's disciples looked at each other, but they were only stunned for a moment. Then they roared, "Yes, disciples understand." Then, each of them flew towards the Liao River, preparing to suppress the flood. Darling Xiao. Seeing Xiaohua giving orders like this, treating the Longevity Town citizens as more important than anything else, Xian's heart was intoxicated. That thin figure, slender eyebrows, and that unfathomable benevolence, he was far more charming than any all-powerful general or emperor. Admiration flickered in Xian's eyes as she whispered, "This concubine can do this." Without waiting for Xiaohua to answer, Xian waved the mystic origin water control flag in her hand. Hundreds of jade talismans fell into the Liao River, and the roaring water dragons immediately submitted, obediently flowing along the river. Although the river's water level was much higher than the shore, there was not a trace of water that exceeded the river's flow. "Good," Xiaohua praised. His hand reached out again, wanting to hold Xian's hand. Xian was originally flying out with Xiaohua's arm around her waist, but when she saw Xiaohua take out the Kunlun mirror, she immediately dodged to the side. When she saw Xiaohua's hand, her figure flickered again, and she winked at Xiaohua with her left eye. Those quivering eyelashes and the bashfulness in her eyes seemed to tickle Xiaohua's heart, making him reluctant to reject Xian's pleading. Xiaohua could only withdraw his hand, and then he ordered the disciples, "All of you, line up and prepare for the battle." "Yes, sect master." The disciples were also the kind of people with sharp eyes. Seeing Xian like this, how could they not know what was going on? They all shouted in unison, "Sect master." These 5 words were truly earth-shattering. Although Xian did not know why Xiaohua was called sect master, seeing Xiaohua being so revered by the disciples, she was also happy. The corners of her mouth curved up, and it was like the mellow fragrance of sweet wine. Xiaohua glared at these disciples, and then released his divine sense to look around. He saw that the current Longevity Town was no longer the Longevity Town before the extreme bliss scripture Seeking Bliss. Thousands of miles above Longevity Town, millions of disciples from aristocratic families had formed a battle team. This battle team was very similar to the 4 aristocratic families' disciples Xiaohua saw in front of Chaomu Cliff, but it was also different. The strength of these disciples was clearly a level higher than the 900,000 disciples. Moreover, these 1 million disciples were divided into 2 layers. 30% of the disciples were in the inner layer, guarding the 4 directions, facing Longevity Town, and surrounding it like an iron bucket. Above these aristocratic family disciples, Dongfang Qianghao, Shimen Jianzhong, Nangong Tianji, and Baiming Chiqing's faces were heavy with helplessness and unwillingness. They each held a small flag in their hands, and the flags were covered in clouds, protecting 30% of the disciples. And outside of these disciples were another 70% of the disciples. These disciples wore heavy armor and were facing the outside. Their killing intent and majestic auras were like dragons, cruising around the edges of the battle squad. Boom, boom, boom. Just as Xiaohua was looking around, in the sky to the left of the Longevity Town, there was a loud rumbling sound. Countless pillars of vast qi crashed into the town, and the sky was already wide open. Groups of immortal soldiers and immortal generals raised their banners high, stepping on the earth, fire, wind, and thunder as they descended. They even sealed off the 10,000 li radius around the Longevity Town. The sounds of battle and the rosy clouds had already blocked the sunlight that filled the sky. The piece of the Sutra of Bliss had already been torn to pieces. Under the mask of mercy, a bloody ferocity was revealed. Dongfang Qianghao. Immortal Emperor Gochen was facing Dongfang Qianghao. He was 1,000 zhang tall now, and his sun and moon imperial robes were majestic. Lightning flashed as he spoke. His voice was like the punishment of the heavens. "I have always treated the 4 clans well. I even wanted to betroth my beloved princess to you for princes. I didn't expect you to have such evil intentions, setting up such an ambush in Longevity Town. If it wasn't for the heavens protecting me, I would have fallen into your trap. Gaochen. Dongfang Qianghao smiled coldly and said, "The winner is the king, the loser is the bandit. Since you're lucky that my innate four-cardinal formation can't trap you, there's no need to waste time. Let's fight. Let's fight and see who wins." I am the son of the heavens, the ruler of the immortal palace. I have the fortune of the world on me, so how can you covet it? Immortal Emperor Gochen laughed and pointed around. You've been surrounded by my solar temple, lunar temple, heavenly king temple, and light temple. How can you survive? If you abandon your weapons and surrender, you may still have a way out. If you stubbornly resist to the end, only death awaits you. Old Gochen. Dongfang Qianghao was not moved at all. He said coldly, "History is always written by the victors. Fortune is always the reward of the victors. If you didn't steal the power of the immortal palace, how could you have the fortune of fortune on you? Don't worry. Once I kill you in the Longevity Town, it will be renamed as the Bandit Town, and the luck of Confucian cultivators will return to me." Wishful thinking. Immortal Emperor Gochen sneered and took out his Son of Heaven's sword. "Since you don't know how to repent and cherish the chance I gave you, then let the wrath of the heavens descend and punish your rebellious path." Immortal Emperor Gochen looked at Wen Chu in the distance and ordered, "Wen Chu Palace Master, can you help me kill these traitors?" Wen Chu's body flashed and landed on the other side of Dongfang Qianghao. His voice was like thunder. "How can I not obey your majesty's orders? Everyone has the right to kill these traitors. Give it a tip, and thank you for all your support." Chapter 4650. With that, Wen Chu raised his hand and the heaven and earth pagoda flew out. The pagoda emitted a thunderous roar and enveloped the area within 100 miles of Dongfang Qianghao. Its unstoppable force slammed down towards Dongfang Qianghao. Dongfang Qianghao wasn't afraid at all despite the pagoda's boundless aura. He sneered, "You don't know what kind of treasure you're facing." With that, Dongfang Qianghao waved his hand and the small flag in his hand began to move. Wen Chu understood that this flag was a triangular flag. The entire flag was apricot yellow, and there were 5 golden lotuses embroidered on the flag. Between the 5 jade talismans, there were faint cloud patterns. The edges of the flag were embroidered with clouds, suns, and moons. When the flag was waved, the clouds floated and the sun and moon shone brightly. Moreover, the flag didn't summon any worldly energy or righteous aura. There wasn't even any energy fluctuation. However, as he waved it, the small flag shone with an apricot yellow light. Every time the light flashed, many golden lotuses would appear and slowly float in the air. Strange runic symbols flowed on the apricot yellow light. These runic symbols were golden and silver in color, and they looked like tadpoles or inscriptions. The lotuses rushed to the sky and landed below the pagoda. The pagoda rumbled several times but couldn't descend. It was stopped by Dongfang Qianghao's apricot yellow flag. There wasn't the slightest trace of smoke and dust. "In the name of the Son of Heaven, I summon the might of the heaven and earth, summon the arts of immortal Confucianism, and punish the traitors." Immortal Emperor Gochen sneered and took out his sword while chanting. As the emperor's words echoed in the air, the entire space trembled. Waves of earth-shattering ripples came down along with layers of heavenly punishment. The lightning was like fire, burning the sky red. Immortal Emperor Gochen had already brought down his sword. The heavenly punishment and the wrath of the immortal palaces not only fell on Dongfang Qianghao but also the hundreds of thousands of Dongfang clan disciples. The west side of Longevity Town was where the Shimen family was guarding. Shimen Jianzhong held a triangular ball of light in his hand. The white cloud-bound flag did not reveal its true appearance. Beneath him, there were also hundreds of thousands of disciples from aristocratic families, close to 1 million. They were about to clash with Lunar Temple's troops. Shimen Jianzhong didn't command the battle formation. He narrowed his eyes and looked forward. In front of him, the golden-winged Peng and Feng Wu had surrounded him. Not to mention the fact that Feng Wu wanted to kill Shimen Jianzhong, Even the golden-winged peng was furious. As it flapped its wings, hundreds of pillars of light descended from the sky and fell into the star marks on its body. Then, a starlight phantom several thousand feet in size appeared near the golden-winged peng's body. The space within this phantom completely collapsed and a destructive aura filled the air. The phoenix Wu didn't dare to be careless and also moved her monster body. Boom boom boom. The power of the stars and moon poured down like a river of stars. As countless star patterns flashed around the phoenix Wu's body, a starlight phantom that was less than 10,000 feet tall but seemed to be solid and transparent appeared. The brilliance at the edge of this phantom was distorted, and if one's gaze fell upon it, they would immediately sink. The phoenix Wu let out a clear cry and activated her monster body and phantom at the same time as the golden-winged roc. Her 4 sharp claws were suffused with a power that could destroy heaven and earth as she pounced toward Shimen Jianzhong. Shimen Jianzhong sneered. He waved the ball of light in his hand. The ball of light scattered, revealing a triangular cloud-bound flag. The flag was white, and there were 5 clouds embroidered on the flag. The 5 clouds were different, and there were some cloud-like patterns in between. At the edge of the white cloud-bound flag, there was no special shape, only some twisted cloud patterns. At this moment, when Shimen Jianzhong waved the white cloud-bound flag, the entire small flag emitted a white brilliance. At the bottom of the brilliance, strange runes flowed. These runes were the same as the other flags. They were golden and silver in color. They were shaped like tadpoles and were shaped like inscriptions. Moreover, under the brilliance, there was a lot of dense clouds. These clouds seemed to slowly float in the air, but in a moment, they protected Shimen Jianzhong and some of the disciples of the Shimen family, welcoming the terrifying attacks of the golden-winged roc and Feng Wu. The south of the longevity town was naturally where the Nangong clan was guarding. Nangong Tianji's face was filled with shock as he faced the celestial being and the lightning-enlightened being. He really didn't expect Immortal Emperor Gaochen and the others to be able to escape from the innate 4 directions grand formation. In order to set up this innate 4 directions grand formation without attracting the attention of the Immortal Palace, avoiding the Earth, the Heaven and Earth Gate, and the Thunder Sound Temple's Arhit, the 4 great clans spent a lot of effort. In order to dispel Immortal Emperor Gaochen's doubts, the 4 great clans even used the conflict between the Nangong clan and Xiaohua to set up a trap. They were prepared to use the 900,000 disciples and the Nangong clan's reputation as the price to lure Immortal Emperor Gaochen. Whether it was the reputation or the 900,000 disciples, these were the limits of the 4 great clans. Their goal was to trap Immortal Emperor Gaochen in the longevity town so that they could attack the Immortal Palace and obtain the Golden Throne. Fortunately, Xiaohua was merciful. He took the Nangong clan's reputation and released the 500,000 disciples back to the 4 great clans. Dongfang Qiong secretly laughed at Xiaohua's soft-heartedness and comforted Nangong Tianji, saying that they would use the blood of the Fortune Gate's disciples to wash away the humiliation of the Nangong clan. However, the Nangong clan was clear that once the 4 great clans took over the Immortal Palace, the first thing they would do would be to appease and recruit the Fortune Gate. There was no way they would start a war. The Nangong clan would definitely be tied to the Pillar of Humiliation. The humiliation of the Nangong clan would probably only be forgotten after thousands of years. Therefore, when he saw the celestial being and the lightning-enlightened being attacking together, Nangong Tianji's eyes turned red. He didn't wait for the 2 of them to make a move and immediately waved the triangular ball of light in his hand. As the ball of light scattered, a triangular floating flame flag was revealed. This flag had 5 different colors, and there were 5 flames embroidered on the flag. Not only did each flame have a different color and shape, but they also divided the flag into 5 regions. These 5 regions intertwined with each other, and it looked like the chaotic space of the 5 elements. The 5 flaming swords also had some interconnected threads of fire. Strange runes were flashing on the swords. As Nangong Tianji waved the swords, the runes turned into tadpoles and swam on the flag. Layers of flame-shaped clouds rushed out rapidly and protected the disciples of the Nangong family and Nangong Tianji. Motherfucker! The celestial cursed as the clouds flew out. The layers of defenses were stronger than anything in the world, and the celestial raised his hand to summon the Deva's white bone. Rumbling sounds could be heard as the surrounding space began to collapse, and the magical laws of heaven and earth began to arrive. Few seeing the faint golden light around the celestial being's body, and the laws of heaven and earth disappeared the moment they entered the golden light. The lightning enlightened being laughed and said, "Congratulations, fellow cultivator. If I'm not wrong, you will be able to refine the celestial being's white bone into your body today." Roar. The celestial being roared towards the sky. Golden light shone from his body, and 3 heads and 6 arms slowly grew out. The 3 mouths shouted at the same time, "Whether or not I can succeed will depend on whether the celestial being floating flame flag of that old bastard Nangong can withstand my attack." After he finished speaking, the celestial being didn't hesitate. He waved his hands and feet and rushed towards the flaming clouds of the floating flame flag. Puff, puff, puff. A series of muffled sounds came as the celestial being activated his cultivation technique. While refining the celestial being's white bone, he attacked Nangong Tianji at the same time. The celestial being's body flashed with golden light, and when the golden light landed on the cloud, it was as Immortal Emperor Go Chen had said. All evil was repelled, and all the golden light hit the surface of the celestial being's body. Waves of strange fluctuations came from the places where the golden light landed, and they rushed into the celestial being's body and penetrated his bones. Seeing the celestial being in such a state, the Thunderbolt Hermit kept the Thunderbolt sword that he had already activated and stood at the side with his hands behind his back to support the celestial being. However, the Thunderbolt Hermit also released his divine sense and scanned the surroundings. The primordial chaos ancestor, the concealed night child, and the riding crane hermit, who had flown out earlier, were nowhere to be seen. They must have left this troublesome place as soon as they escaped. The north of the longevity town was naturally where the Dark North family was guarding. However, the Dipankara archaic Buddha, who had rushed out together with Immortal Emperor Gochen, wasn't in a hurry to leave. Instead, he sat cross-legged on the 9 grades lotus platform and glared at Dark North Qing, who was holding the triangular flag. The Buddhism sect was naturally merciful, but it didn't mean that they didn't have the means to subdue devils. Back then, in the profound water palace, Guzhen even used his protective means and overestimated himself, trying to shake the profound essence water control flag. Facing the green lotus flag today, the Dipankara archaic Buddha's world lord was truly enraged. However, he chanted, "Namo Amitabha, my Buddha is merciful. Please forgive your disciples' anger today." As he spoke, the Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord raised his right palm, which expanded to a size of several miles. That Buddha palm was no longer a Buddha palm. Instead, it resembled a huge mountain, a deep pool, or countless Buddha kingdoms. Boundless power of faith fell within this Buddha palm. Under this Buddha palm, the power of mountains, stars, and samsara, which were commonly seen in Buddhism sect's Buddha seals, were continuously produced. Following the changes of this force, the space above the northern nether family's head started collapsing, and being annihilated. Buddha lights, blood lights, and even faint cries of wandering souls could be heard. Dark North Qing's expression changed drastically. However, she forced herself to remain calm and waved the green lotus flag in her hand. This green lotus flag was different from the other 5 elements flags. A layer of treasured radiance covered the flag, and within the radiance, strange runes flickered. At first glance, this treasured radiance resembled the Maitreya Buddha's 7 wonders tree. To give it a recommendation vote, collect it, or tip it. Thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 4651. However, there were 3 green lotuses embroidered on the flag gate. The lotuses were of different sizes and were arranged in a triangular formation. Each of the lotuses had clouds coming out from them. These clouds intertwined on the flag and formed circles as thin as mosquitoes. Currently, as the green lotus flag was being waved, countless rays of light shot out from the circular surface of the flag, forming the shapes of sariras of various sizes in midair. These sariras emitted a kind of extreme gentleness. As they shot into the air, they welcomed the Dipankara archaic Buddha's Buddha palm. Kill. As the group of Supreme Being experts made their moves, the immortal soldiers and immortal generals naturally received the orders from their generals. They activated the clouds and pounced on the battle teams of the disciples of the four great clans with weapons in hand. For a moment, the battle cries rang out again. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen was fooled by the four clans and came to longevity from his palace. However, he was still fully prepared and hid his troops in the fire, earth, wind, and lightning above the town in case of an emergency. Unfortunately, Immortal Emperor Go-Chen still underestimated the four clans. The moment the Xiantian Four Corners Grand Formation appeared, it immediately cut off all information. If it wasn't for the new Mystic Water Control flag, then the four clans would have succeeded. Once Immortal Emperor Go-Chen escaped, the first thing he did was to issue a decree and order the 10 halls to surround and annihilate the disciples of the four great clans. Of course, the four great clans were not unprepared. The 70% of the disciples outside the Grand Formation were prepared to meet the 10 halls troops. In the time it took to finish a cup of tea, tens of thousands of disciples and immortal soldiers had already perished. Their flesh and blood began to scatter all over the sacred ground of the Buddhist sect. As for Immortal Emperor Gaochen, the Son of Heaven's sword carried the heavenly punishment and slammed into the 10,000 golden lotuses of the apricot yellow flag. The lotuses were destroyed by the heavenly punishment, but they were born again. Even with the suppression of Wenchu's worldly pagoda, the Son of Heaven's sword couldn't reach Dongfang Qionghao's eyes. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen and Wenchu didn't succeed, but the Peng and the Phoenix Parasol didn't fare any better. The four claws of the two grand saints were extremely powerful at this moment. Even if there was a mountain here, it would still be torn to pieces. However, when such a powerful attack landed in the clouds, it destroyed most of them. But in the next moment, more clouds surged out and dragged the two great saints' bodies out of the clouds. He didn't let them get close at all. As for the Dipankara archaic Buddha's Buddha palm, as soon as it landed, the Saraira lights were annihilated. However, as the lights were annihilated, another layer of lights appeared. These layers of lights overlapped each other and blocked the Buddha palm's attack. Upon seeing this, be it the Immortal Emperor Go-Chen, the Dipankara archaic Buddha, or even the golden-winged Great Rock, their expressions changed drastically. After all, as long as the four great clans had the four cardinal flags, they would be in an invincible position. This battle would probably not have any results. They all looked at the new princess who was standing with Xiao Hua in the distance. His gaze fell on the Xinyuan water control flag in her hand. Feng Wu, Taoist thunderclap, and Wenchu's expressions didn't change at all. They knew clearly in their hearts that even though the four great clans had the innate four-directional flags, the flags could only be used for defense. In other words, they were invulnerable to all evil and invulnerable to all techniques. Xiao Hua's Devil Saber massacre was the nemesis of these four cardinal flags. As for the heavenly being, he was happily activating his abilities and rushing into the flaming clouds. He was extremely busy. Xian. The Immortal Emperor Go-Chen said, "Listen to my command. Help me destroy this Yin-Yang apricot yellow flag." "Yes, Your Majesty." Xian naturally couldn't disobey the orders of the Celestial Emperor, so he respectfully responded. He secretly glanced at Xiao Hua before urging his body to fly out. When Dongfang Qionghao saw this, his face turned even paler. He seemed to have already seen the four great clans bleeding all over the ground and being annihilated. Boom, boom, boom. It was also at this moment that a thunderous sound came from the sky. It was like a torrential rain, and it was like 10,000 horses were mute. This sound covered the sky and passed through the sky. The floating clouds in the sky were more or less shattered. Layers of chaotic fluctuations fell down as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. In an instant, the sun and moon lost their light, and the stars dimmed. What's going on? All of the Supreme Being experts were dumbfounded. As the fluctuations descended, waves of fear and trepidation inexplicably arose in their hearts. A faint scent of blood and destruction drifted around their mouths and noses. However, this phenomenon disappeared in a flash. Before they could think about it, the sky above them shone brightly once again. Not only did the ripples disappear, even the sound disappeared. Everything was like the deafening battle cries. There was no change at all. That strange phenomenon was like a dream in an instant. Oh no! How could Xiao Hua not understand what had happened? He didn't hesitate at all. He didn't dare to conceal his cultivation anymore. He raised his hand and slapped his forehead. The immortal Emperor Gochen also pointed at his forehead. Golden light overflowed from his eyes, and waves of strange fluctuations slowly appeared in front of his eyes. As for the Dipankara archaic Buddha, the World Lord retracted his Buddha palm. Shadows appeared in his ears, and countless radiances appeared behind his head and fell into the shadows of his ears. Boom! Just when the Supreme Being experts were about to execute their abilities to calculate the karma, another massive chi pillar emerged from the earth, fire, wind, and lightning. A patrol inspector clad in bright armor descended from the sky. His figure was still distorted, and before he could solidify, a panicked voice resounded, Your Majesty, the Heaven's Secret Hall's G Prefecture has an urgent report. Before the inspector's voice could land, ka-cha-cha. A thunderous rumble could be heard. From the direction of the soaring Dragon Mountain Range, a Fortune Gate disciple with a cultivation of Grade 8 origin energy was flying over. That disciple's face was filled with panic as he hurriedly said, Reporting to the Patriarch, there is an urgent report from the Star-Picking Tower. Similarly, from the Thunder Monastery's direction, a pillar of Buddha light pierced through the sky. A long-eared arhat clad in a monk's robe hurriedly descended while stepping on a 6th-grade Buddha lotus. That arhat's eyes were filled with disbelief. He didn't have the calmness of an ordinary Buddha as he said, Dipankara archaic Buddha, the World Lord, Heavenly King Palilor has sent an urgent report from the southern part of the Blessed Land world. Speak. Immortal Emperor Gochen hurriedly stopped his divine ability and retreated. Reporting. Without waiting for the patrol inspector to speak, the starry sky to the north of the Longevity Town was already in chaos. Streams of stars fell from the sky, and after they fell to the ground, a celestial bridge pierced through them and rushed over from afar. Amidst the starlight, a faint hall could be seen on the other side of the celestial bridge. The Great Sage Hall's celestial bridge sent a message? The golden-winged Great Rock didn't have any divine ability of karma, nor did he have the ability to predict the future. He only knew that something earth-shattering must have happened in the 3 continents. Now that he saw the Great Sage Hall using the celestial bridge to send a message, his expression changed greatly. He exclaimed, Could it be that something strange has happened in my 1,000 demons' sacred territory? Sage Peng. No demons appeared where the star bridge landed. Instead, a dignified voice sounded. It was the 3rd great sage of the Great Sage Temple, the mystic armored Pentaceratops. Strange insects have appeared in the extreme north of our 1,000 demons' sacred realm. There are countless of them, and they devoured several demon realms in a single day. Not only did the demons in the demon realms vanish into nothingness, even the mountains and lakes of the demon realms have disappeared without a trace. It is exactly the same as the Qijing, Yuanfeng, and Bingqin demon realms from before. Countless. The golden-winged Great Rock was dumbfounded. Not only that, the Pentaceratops continued, the same insects have appeared in the west of the West Sea. They have devoured hundreds of thousands of sea demons and thousands of dragons. The Dragon King of the West Sea, Ao Hong, happened to be patrolling the Eye of the West Sea and was besieged by the insects. It is unknown whether he is still alive or not. Sacred Rock, we have gathered at the Great Sage Hall. You and Sacred Phoenix should return quickly so that we can discuss how to eliminate these insects. West Sea Dragon King Ao Hong is still alive? Let alone the golden-winged Great Rock, even Immortal Emperor Gochen, the Dipankara archaic Buddha, and Xiao Hua were stunned. The Dragon King of the West Sea, Ao Hong, was a Dragon King of the 9th grade Essence Chi realm. Although he had yet to reach the peak of the 9th grade Essence Chi realm, he shouldn't have been besieged by these insects, right? Strange insects? Xiao Hua suddenly came to an understanding, and his gaze passed through everyone to look at Sun Jian. Sure enough, Sun Jian's expression changed drastically as well, and he just happened to be looking at Xiao Hua. As their gazes met, a strand of indescribable terror arose in their eyes at the same time. None of the people present knew how powerful the strange insects they had encountered in the void were. If they encountered those strange insects, then the 3 continents would be doomed. After all, even the dragon race and the dragon temple were no match for those strange insects. After the profound armored pentaceratops finished speaking, the starry bridge disappeared, and the inverted starry river returned to its original state. Your Majesty! The Immortal Palace's inspector stole a glance at Immortal Emperor Go-Chen, who had also turned pale, and reported, "Urgent report from the Heavenly Mysteries Hall. Strange insects have appeared at the border of the hidden Immortal continent in the east of the Ji province. These insects are innumerable. They are like locusts, leaving no survivors behind. Now they have caused the annihilation of 10 countries. Millions of living beings have died. 10 7th-grade Essence Chi Realm disciples of the Heavenly Mysteries Hall have perished, and 400,000 immortal soldiers guarding the border of the continent have gone missing." Long-eared Arhat. Shock appeared on the Dipankara Archaic Buddha's face as he looked at the Arhat who had sent the report. Reporting to the World Lord. Long-eared Arhat hurriedly replied, "Heavenly King Polylore has sent an urgent report from the southern part of the Blessed Land world. Strange insects have appeared at the border of the Blessed Land world. These insects are of different sizes. The small ones are less than a few inches, while the big ones are more than a few dozen feet. These insects devour everything, and they especially like things that contain the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Some insects even devour Buddhist lights." Before the report was sent, more than 40 temples and 60,000 Buddhas had gone missing. Among them, 7 Arhats and 14 Vajras had gone missing. Chapter 4652. Hearing this, Xiaohua couldn't help asking, "How many people have gone missing?" That long-eared Arhat originally had other numbers to say, but when he heard Xiaohua's question, he took a deep breath and lamented, 40 temples. About 4,670,000 benefactors have disappeared. So many. Xiaohua's heart ached, then he looked at his disciple and asked, "Do you have more bad news?" That Fortune Gate disciple took a deep breath and said loudly, "Other than the above, Zhai Xing Lu has other news. On the hidden immortal mainland, strange insects have appeared in Qing province and Yangzhou, killing nearly 700,000 people in 4 towns. On the White Bone Mountain Range in the western part of the Western Paradise, 400,000 people have gone missing, and the mountain range has been swallowed. If I'm not mistaken, it is also the doing of strange insects. On the eastern part of the Thousand Demons sacred territory, 800,000 demonic beast tribes have gone missing near the Chitty River, including 307 greater demonic beasts. On the eastern part of the Eastern Sea, 310,000 sea tribes have been killed by strange insects. Anything else?" Xiaohua gritted his teeth. That disciple flipped his hand and took out a jade eye. He passed it to Xiaohua and said, "Zhai Xing Lu has lost more than a dozen disciples and sent back images of strange insects." Xiaohua lifted his hand and made a grabbing motion. The jade eye instantly fell into his hand. Xiaohua flipped his hand and placed it on his forehead, but at that moment, he hesitated for a moment. He closed his eyes slightly, calmed his mind, and put it down. As Xiaohua had expected, there were more than a dozen images of strange insects in the jade eye. Some were big, some were small, and 2 of them were exactly the same as the ones he had seen in the void on the Dragon Island. Among these dozen strange insects, there were 3 that were bigger than the strange insects he had seen on the Dragon Island. Similarly, there were 7 or 8 strange insects that were smaller than the strange insects Xiaohua had seen in the void. Moreover, the smallest strange insect, Xiaohua, seemed to be slightly familiar. He pondered for a moment before coming to a realization. Wasn't it the myriad of black dots he saw in the spatial rift when he fell into the Western Sea all those years ago? At that time, the black dots were completely black, but he could still remember the shape of the black dots. Wasn't it similar to the smallest strange insect? Moreover, the black dots wriggled like maggots, and the black dots attacked like soul spikes. Xiaohua's memories were still fresh in his mind. Even Xiaohua, who had an innate divine restriction outside his Naiwan palace that was impossible for ordinary people, was knocked unconscious by this strange insect's soul-piercing attack. Then what about the other cultivators? If it were any other cultivator, even if they had reached the tribulation passing stage, without a special spirit treasure or even a heaven spirit treasure, they wouldn't be able to escape death. Xiaohua's heart couldn't help but clench at the thought of the hundreds of millions of strange insect shadows. He took the jade eye ring off his forehead and looked at the disciples of the 4 great clans who had stopped fighting, as well as the immortal soldiers and immortal generals of the 10 halls of the immortal palaces. With sorrow in his eyes, he threw the jade eye ring to Sun Jian. Seeing the jade pupil slowly flying in the air, it didn't fall into immortal Emperor Go Chen's hand, but it fell into Sun Jian's. Others didn't understand, but Sun Jian's heart felt as if it had fallen into an ice cellar. After receiving the jade eye ring, light flashed in Sun Jian's eyes. After looking at it for a moment, his face turned pale, and he respectfully passed it to immortal Emperor Go Chen. After immortal Emperor Go Chen looked at it, he passed it to Tai Bai Jingxing. Tai Bai Jingxing didn't take a look at it, and instead, he passed it to Namo Great Wisdom Manjushri, who then passed it to Namo Dipankara Archaic Buddha. After all the supreme experts present finished looking at it, the jade eye ring returned to Xiaohua's hand. Xiaohua looked at the jade eye ring with a heavy gaze, and just as he was about to keep it, immortal Emperor Go Chen shouted from afar, Exin, come and help me break this Wuji apricot yellow flag. Disciples of the immortal palaces, listen to my command, kill. Damn it. Xiaohua was enraged. He pointed his finger, and a thunderbolt descended from the sky, striking towards immortal Emperor Go Chen. Of course, this thunderbolt was only a warning. Immortal Emperor Go Chen wielded the Sun Moon Emperor armor to shatter this thunderbolt. Master Shaolei, are you going to offend your superior? Immortal Emperor Go Chen lost his face, and he couldn't help but feel angry. Your Majesty! Xiaohua looked at the 10 immortal palaces of the immortal palaces, and suppressed the anger in his heart. Don't you see? The extraterrestrial enemies have already invaded the 3 continents and the 4 seas. If we don't work together to defend against them, I'm afraid the 3 continents and 4 seas will be destroyed. Destroy the world. How is that possible? Immortal Emperor Go Chen sneered. Since the ancient times, our 3 continents have existed for who knows how long, and who knows how many extraterrestrial dangers we've encountered. I also never knew that the extraterrestrial enemies had the ability to destroy the world. Are the cultivators of our 3 continents made of mud? Immortal Emperor Go Chen looked at Dongfang Qianghao and said, to resist the foreign invasion, we must first settle our internal affairs. Even if I want to defend against the foreign invasion, I must first eliminate the 4 great clans. Otherwise, how can I be at ease killing those strange insects? Princess Exin hurriedly said, reporting to your Majesty, although I have already controlled the mystic water control flag, the innate 5-element flags are only good at defense and cannot be used to attack. Moreover, I'm only at the lower 7th grade of origin energy. Even if I use the mystic water control flag, I can't break through the yin-yang apricot yellow flag, which is controlled by a 9th grade origin energy cultivator. Your Majesty, please understand. No matter. Immortal Emperor Go Chen laughed. As long as you can control the yin-yang apricot yellow flag's defense. Unfortunately, before Immortal Emperor Go Chen finished speaking, Xiaohua also laughed loudly and said, no matter, Exin, go and help His Majesty. Let them fight to the death. This Xiao will send a message to the soaring Dragon Mountain range, and my Fortune Gate's disciples will all go out to battle. Rather than dying in the mouths of those strange insects, why not exterminate the 4 great clans and the Immortal Palace? And this Xiao will be free in the Cloud Ascension Palace for a few days. Amitabha. The Namo Dipankara Archaic Buddha chanted the Buddha's name and gave up on Baiming Choqing. He raised his hands and formed a Buddha seal with his palms. As the Buddha's seal flickered, the radiance behind the Dipankara Archaic Buddha's head shone brightly. Layers of Buddha radiance condensed into a stream and fell into the Buddha seal. Gradually, the space around the Buddha seal started distorting and collapsing strangely. Then, strings of golden tattoos gushed out like tadpoles. These golden tattoos transformed into a huge swastika character and slowly rotated in midair. Waves of cryptic fluctuations were emitted from the swastika character and rushed into the surrounding void. Seeing the Dipankara archaic Buddha's actions, Immortal Emperor Go-Chin hesitated for a moment. Then he raised his hand and took out the clear heavenly mirror. He opened his mouth, and a dragon-like Confucian fate entered the clear heavenly mirror. The entire clear heavenly mirror let out a rumbling sound and transformed into a huge door of light. Appear! Immortal Emperor Go-Chin raised his hand again and slapped the crown on his head. Amidst the flickering lights, the impure five-colored true qi rushed into the door of light like a pillar. Then, the entire door of light shone with multicolored radiance. Strange fluctuations were emitted from the void and rushed into the radiance with a roar. Then, scenes of light appeared within the radiance. Xiao Hua knew that the two supreme experts were using their abilities to divine the future. He also raised his hand and was about to release the Thunder Nebula. However, his heart skipped a beat and he stopped. Looking at the trembling void and the intertwining fluctuations, he sighed. Then he looked up at the sky again. The phenomenon just now wasn't created out of nothing. If there wasn't any danger of world destruction, why would there be such omens? As expected, after a while, the radiance within the clear heavenly mirror gradually faded, turning into black and white. The swastika symbol in front of the Dipankara archaic Buddha's eyes also slowly withered, turning into grayish-white. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen's appearance was hidden behind the golden radiance of the crown, and no one could see it. However, the despair on the Dipankara archaic Buddha's face was obvious. Amitabha, for great families. The Dipankara archaic Buddha's Buddha lotus beneath the Dipankara archaic Buddha's feet was already emitting Buddha radiances. He then said, "The unprecedented calamity of our three continents is approaching. No matter if it's the human race, the demon race, or the dragon race, all living in the three continents must work together to resist the enemies outside. Today's matter. My Buddhism sect won't pursue it any further. When you return, think about it carefully. Do you want to live in internal strife, or die in the hands of the strange insects outside?" Amitabha, Namo Daji, Manjushri, and the other Buddhas clasped their palms together and chanted Buddha's name. Following the Dipankara archaic Buddha's world exalt, they flew into the sky and disappeared in an instant. The golden-winged great rock also let out a cry. He flapped his wings and flew into the sky, shouting, "Old man Shiman, consider yourself lucky today. Before the calamity, I won't lower myself to your level. If you can fight against the enemies outside with the help of the human race, I'll treat it as if nothing happened. Otherwise, don't blame me for luring my 1,000 demons' sacred territories' children into the four great families." After saying that, the golden-winged great rock flew into the sky. Feng Wu also nodded toward Xiao Hua and followed after him. Seeing Feng Wu leaving, Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly sent a voice transmission. "Phoenix Sage, don't we have a teleportation formation under the Black Wind Ridge? Use the teleportation formation to return with the Rock Sage." "Alright." Feng Wu replied, "Since you've taken out our Fortune Gate's teleportation formation, I'm afraid the Rock Sage will treat you as his brother in the future." Then Feng Wu and the golden-winged great rock's figures tilted and landed on the Black Wind Ridge. "Your Majesty." Seeing that the demonic beast race and the Buddhist sect had left, Dongfang Qianghao hurriedly said, "This old subject was foolish and blinded by greed. I actually wanted to scheme against your Majesty." Dongfang Qianghao's expression changed like flipping through a book. Xiao Hua was also dumbfounded. He listened in a daze for the time it took to brew a cup of tea. Dongfang Qianghao's endless confession was like a gem, and every word was brilliant. If he wrote it, it would be even more wonderful than the four great clans' declaration of collusion. In the end, Dongfang Qianghao said, "Therefore, this old subject is willing to lead the disciples of the four great families and be your Majesty's vanguard. We will kill the strange insects, destroy the enemies outside, and return peace to the three continents." After saying that, Dongfang Qianghao knelt in the air and bowed his head to beg for forgiveness. "Give it a tip, and thank you for all your support." Chapter 4653. Dongfang Qiong Hao, Shimen Jianzhong, Nangong Tian, Baiming Chui Qing, and the millions of disciples from the 4 aristocratic families did the same. Immortal Emperor Gaochen looked at the 4 aristocratic families that were still hidden by the innate 4 cardinal flags and hesitated for a moment. Then he waved his hand and revealed the emperor's sword and supreme heavenly mirror. He laughed and said, "Dongfeng, Shimen, Nangong, and Baiming, please rise." The saint once said, "How can a man be infallible? A man who corrects his mistakes is a gentleman." The 4 aristocratic families haven't been to the Immortal Palace for a long time, and I haven't been to the hidden Immortal Palace for a long time. Therefore, it's not strange for there to be a gap between us. From now on, I will visit the 4 aristocratic families, and you will also visit the Immortal Palace. I'm sure we won't have any more grudges between us. Especially now that the calamity of the 3 continents is coming, you and I are the commanders of the human race. Even if we die fighting the enemies from the outside, we can't cause trouble here. Thank you, Your Majesty. Dongfang Qiong Hao and the other 3 aristocratic families all stood up. Immortal Emperor Gaochen saw this and didn't stay for long. He raised his hand and said, "Immortal soldiers of the 10 palaces of the Immortal Palace, march to the Lingyun Side Palace. I will live and die with the hidden Immortal Continent." The immortal soldiers and generals obeyed. They activated their clouds and set off. Dongfang Qiong Hao waved his hand and put away the Wuji apricot yellow flag when he saw that 30% of the soldiers had left. He ordered, "Soldiers, retreat." With Dongfang Qiong Hao's order, the Dongfang aristocratic family's troops readied themselves and cleaned up the mess. Shimen Jianzhong, Nangong Tian, and Baiming Chui Qing also put away the 5-element flags and prepared to retreat. Dongfang Qiong Hao glanced at Immortal Emperor Gaochen and bowed. "Your Majesty, I'll return to the faction first and wait for your orders." "Good." Immortal Emperor Gaochen helped Dongfang Qiong Hao up and said with a smile, "Let's forget about our grudges today. I hope we can work together to eliminate the enemies from the outside. Under Your Majesty's wise leadership, the strange insects from the outside are nothing." Dongfang Qiong Hao said seriously. "Ah, good, thank you for your auspicious words." Immortal Emperor Gaochen flew up and smiled, "May my Confucian Legion succeed." "Your Majesty." Seeing that Immortal Emperor Gaochen was about to leave, Xin also moved. Xiao Hua hurriedly shouted, "Don't forget what you said at the Southern Heaven Gate." Immortal Emperor Gaochen stopped in midair and pondered for a moment before nodding, "All right. Since Master Xiao Lei has rescued Xin, I will agree to your marriage proposal. However, now that the calamity is upon us, we don't have the time to play matchmaker for you. Let's talk about this after we kill the strange insect. Moreover, if you want to marry the princess of the Immortal Palace, my most beloved daughter, if you can't take out a fortune worthy of my Xin, don't even think about stealing Xin away." Hearing Immortal Emperor Gaochen mention her marriage in front of so many people, Princess Xin shyly lowered her head and hid in front of her chest. Xiao Hua was overjoyed when he heard this. Just as he was about to thank Immortal Emperor Gaochen, he rolled his eyes and pushed the boat with the current. "Your Majesty, if that's the case, why don't we strike while the iron is hot? This humble servant will take out a gift worthy of the 9th princess. You only need to say one word, and this humble servant is willing to contribute to the eradication of the insects in the 9 regions." Immortal Emperor Gaochen was stunned. He smiled and said, "So Master Xiao Lei already had a plan? I just don't know what kind of gift you have prepared. It's actually worthy of the princess of the Immortal Palace? The patriarchs of the 4 great clans are here." Xiao Hua smiled and said, "Let them be witnesses and see if this gift of mine is suitable." While speaking, Xiao Hua opened his mouth and the 9 regions cauldrons flew out. The 9 regions cauldrons landed in midair. Boom boom boom. Another 9 layers of vast energy pillars fell down. Under the 9 regions cauldrons, 9 layers of fate energy swarmed out and turned into 9 dragons that danced around the cauldrons. 9 regions cauldrons. Not only was Immortal Emperor Gaochen surprised, but Dongfang Qiong Hao and the others also turned pale with fright. They hurriedly said, "This? How did the 9 regions cauldrons end up in your hands? Don't worry, Your Majesty. Xiao Hua smiled and said, this Xiao is not a thief who stole the cauldrons. Your Majesty, please listen to this Xiao in detail. Then, Xiao Hua told the story of how he met the demon refining gourd at the Jade Pavilion conference and how he killed Kong Hongwu. Finally, he said, this Xiao obtained 5 9 regions cauldrons from Kong Hongwu's Cosmos bag. This Xiao found out that Kong Hongwu was a secret agent of the Heaven's Secret Hall through Star-Plucking Pavilion. That's why I suspected the Hall Master of the Heaven's Secret Hall, Xie Exin. Then, Your Majesty personally killed Xie Exin. Damn it. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen finally understood. Dongfang Qiong-hao and the others also suddenly understood. Xie Exin really deserves to die 10,000 times. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen said fiercely, for his own selfish desires, he actually disregarded the fate of the Confucian cultivators and the survival of the human race. He wanted to steal the 9 regions cauldrons for himself. If Master Xiao Lei didn't discover it in time, I'm afraid I would have fallen into his trap. Master Xiao Lei, your contribution is great. These 9 regions cauldrons are absolutely worthy of Princess Exin. However, Immortal Emperor Go-Chen said with difficulty, this 9 regions great formation is easy to break, but to set it up again is extremely difficult. As far as I know, if it wasn't for 9 9th level origin energy experts with the same cultivation level and telepathy working at the same time, the 9 regions cauldrons wouldn't have been able to smoothly fall into the 9 regions of the hidden immortal continent. Your Majesty, Dongfang Qiong-hao hastily said from afar. This old servant suddenly remembered. Was it because the 9 regions great formation was broken that there was a gap between our 3 continents and the outside world? Was that why that strange insect could sneak into our hidden immortal continent? That's right, it's that damn Xie Exin. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen nodded vigorously. Xiao Hua said with confidence, Your Majesty, does the Immortal Palace have a way to set up the 9 regions great formation? If possible, please give it to this Xiao. This Xiao is willing to give this great gift to Your Majesty and protect Your Majesty's foundation for eternity. Good. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen was also very happy. Since that's the case, this emperor allows it. As long as you set up the 9 regions great formation and eliminate the problem of the strange insect, this emperor will announce to the world that Exin will marry into the Xiao sect. Thank you, Your Majesty. Xiao Hua shouted loudly as he looked at Exin who was trembling with excitement. Exin. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen waved his hand and a rainbow-colored jade crystal fell in front of her. He ordered, this emperor orders you to teach the 9 regions great formation to Master Xiao Lei and assist him in setting up the formation to contain the hidden immortals. This son accepts the order. Thank you, Your Majesty. Exin reached out her small hand. Her snow-white soft hand was now the color of a rose. She received the jade crystal and replied with a trembling voice. Wenchu Palace Master? Immortal Emperor Go-Chen said again, you have already helped Master Xiao Lei find Exin. Can you follow this emperor back to the Ling Yunside Palace today? This servant obeys the order. Wenchu saw that Xiao Hua was happy and nodded. He accepted the order and flew up to the clouds with Immortal Emperor Go-Chen, Sun Jian, and Tai Bai Jinxing before disappearing into the clouds. After the soldiers left, Dongfang Qiong-hao stared at Xiao Hua for a long time, then bowed and said, Taoist Master Xiao, I always thought you were a scheming person, but this time in Longevity Town, I saw you achieve the Buddha fruit of Nanwu Merciful Guanyin Bodhisattva. This is really unexpected. Even though I look down on the Buddhist fruits, I especially admire the Buddhist fruit of the Merciful Guanyin Bodhisattva because the words, Merciful Guanyin Bodhisattva, can't be proven without a truly merciful heart and benevolence. Thinking about how enlightened being brought back more than 500,000 disciples from the 4 clans, I have nothing else to say. Today, if it wasn't for enlightened being forcing us to abdicate, His Majesty might not have let us go. If we fought, the insect problem wouldn't have been eliminated. Thus, I still have to thank enlightened being. You're welcome. Xiao Hua helped Dongfang Qiong-hao up with a smile and said, I've always been muddle-headed in small matters. If I offended the four clans because of some small details, I hope fellow Immortal Dongfang and the three clans' patriarchs can forgive me. At this time, other than Nangong Tianji who was organizing his troops in the distance, Shimen Jianzhong and Baiming Qiuqing also flew over and cupped their fists. Actually, after we returned to our sects, we have a very high opinion of enlightened being. If it wasn't for His Majesty's plan, we wouldn't have fought. Forget it, forget it. At this time, Xiaohua was too lazy to care about the truth of these people's words. He waved his hand and said, "The insect is already at our door. Fellow Taoists, please hurry and discuss how to kill it. I have seen this insect before, and it is extremely powerful. Moreover, according to my calculations, the insect that appeared before was only the tip of the iceberg. There are billions of them inside the spatial cracks, so you can't be careless. After I return to the Fortune Gate, I will write down the method to kill this insect and send it to the 3 continents through the Star Plucking Tower." Good. The 3 clans' patriarchs clapped their hands and said, "Enlightened being Shao is indeed worthy of being called Guanyin Bodhisattva." Then the 4 clans also left. Xiaohua watched the group of Confucian disciples leave on clouds, leaving behind countless legends on the hidden immortal continent. Even his golden Buddha statue that had just been completed had now lost its rightful glory. Xiaohua's heart was filled with emotions. After the sutra seeking extreme bliss ended, the Buddhist sect was supposed to be the main character, and Chunzeng was supposed to be the main character. However, the Fortune Gate of the Taoist sect appeared and he led a group to steal the Buddhist sect's glory. When the golden Buddha statue of Guanyin Bodhisattva transformed, the Buddhist sect's face was completely trampled on. Then, Chunzong created more problems and still wanted to seek sutras from the west. Then, the traitorous 6-eared macaque appeared, once again exposing the Buddhist sect's secret. And just as Immortal Emperor Gaochen sat on the mountain and watched the tigers fight, everyone fell into the ambush of the 4 clans. The 4 clan swords were aimed at the Immortal Palace's throne. Seeing that the 4 supreme experts were helpless, the Immortal Emperor's subordinate, Princess Xian, appeared out of nowhere. With a mystic origin water control flag, she broke the innate 4 cardinal formation that no one could break, allowing the Immortal Palace to completely turn the tables and surround the 4 clans. Seeing that the war was about to break out, and nearly 1 million lives were about to be exterminated, the alien insect appeared, and the 3 continents' apocalyptic omen was born, stopping the human race's tragedy. The strange changes in the world were all revealed in the Longevity Town. At this time, when Xiaohua thought about it, he was also filled with emotions. Chapter 4654. Dongfang Qionghao's words of thanks. Xiaohua was truly worthy of it. The battle between the Buddhas and the Immortals in the town of Longevity had become secondary. The most important thing was the battle between the militarists and the 4 great clans. The Great Sage Temple and the Thunder Temple could only watch from the sidelines. If it wasn't for Xiaohua using the Fortune Gate's strength and his own cultivation to threaten Immortal Emperor Gochen, with Immortal Emperor Gochen's temperament, he might not have let go of this golden opportunity to exterminate the 4 great clans. Fortunately, with Xiaohua's kindness and the rise of the Fortune Gate, there was a third party that Immortal Emperor Gochen and the 4 great clans were wary of. Only then could they join forces to deal with the strange insect. Seeing that the monks of the Tidal River Temple had come out and were cleaning up the mess with lingering fear, Xiaohua smiled and looked at the Guanyin Bodhisattva who was looking at the town of Longevity and the entire Yu province with benevolent eyes. Xiaohua opened his mouth and said, "Hundreds of years were like a dream. The parting at that time was like returning now. Whoever caused it, there will be consequences. Right and wrong, only the heavenly Tao knows. Namo Maitreya Buddha." "Hehe, Xiaohua, what are you talking about?" Princess Xian smiled and said, "I have never seen you so majestic. Even His Majesty was overshadowed by your brilliance. All of the brilliance is but a cloud before you. All of the prestige is no match for the gentleness in your eyes." Xiaohua said affectionately, "When the 9-province formation is completed, this husband will draw your eyebrows for you." Xian was originally shy when he heard this, but when Xiaohua said, "husband," he hastily frowned and said in a low voice, "Xiao Lang, the titles of husband and wife, don't speak carelessly. Before performing the ceremony of husband and wife, it's improper. Xiao Hua touched his nose awkwardly. He understood that Xen was a princess of the Immortal Palace and had been learning Confucian etiquette since young. Fairy Hong Xia and Xue Xue were Taoist cultivators and didn't care about these things. He would have to be more careful in the future. Thinking about Fairy Hong Xia and Xue Xue, Xiao Hua's heart moved. He wanted to tell Xen, but he swallowed his words. Although Confucian cultivators emphasized 3 wives and 4 concubines and Xen might not care about Fairy Hong Xia, he had just proposed marriage in front of immortal Emperor Go Qin. Any woman would be unhappy if he told Xen. He had left Dawn Rain mainland for several hundred years. Who knew if Fairy Hong Xia had any other thoughts? Thus, Xiao Hua decided to leave this matter for the future. Xen, I will be careful in the future. Xiao Hua said. Xiao Hua sighed. Xen blinked her eyes, smiling. She's Hua's. The two of them had only whispered a few words when Celestial Being and Thunderbolt Immortal flew over from afar. Seeing this, Xiao Hua asked worriedly, "How's the situation around Longevity Town?" "I'll let you know." Thunderbolt Immortal smiled. "The 4 great clans are quite honest. Although they cut off the Liao River's flow, they also set up a forbidden array. The river water didn't flood the land of ordinary people and didn't affect their livelihood because of the array." That's good." Xiao Hua nodded slightly. After thinking for a while, he took out the Kunlun mirror. Under the light, Taoist Witch and his disciples flew out. Xiao Hua ordered, "Return to the Fortune Tao Palace first and discuss the matter of resisting the alien insects. This matter is of great importance. It's comparable to the heavenly demon's destruction of the world." Hiss. The disciples were shocked and didn't dare to delay. After saluting, they flew back to the soaring Dragon Mountain range. After everyone left, Xiao Hua smiled and said, Xen, why don't you come with me to a place?" But Xen didn't understand. Is there anything more important in this world than the alien insects? Of course. Xiao Hua moved his body, and with a wave of his hand, he held Xen's small hand in his. Seeing that there was no one around, Xen obediently let Xiao Hua hold his hand, just like that day in the flower pavilion. Then he heard Xiao Hua say, "Don't you want to know what happened in these 300 years? Don't you want to know how I cultivated to the Mahayana realm in 300 years? Of course I do." Xen narrowed her eyes and looked at the setting sun. The red clouds fell on Xen's face, making her look especially shy. Xen moaned, "My memories are still stuck in the past. Everything now is like a dream. It's like 1,000, 10,000 dreams of yearning." Xiao Hua held Xen's hand and flew up into the sky. Their figures landed on the ground and slowly elongated, just like the countless couples in the world. At this moment, they were comparable to the eternity of the world. Jianghu town was a small town near the coast of the East Sea in Liangqi County of Jing Province. The town wasn't big and the people were simple. In the southwest of the town, there was a family with the surname Qin. This family was originally a scholarly family in Jianghu town and had a history of several hundred years. Unfortunately, this family didn't have many descendants. Every generation, there was only one son. 60 years ago, they were still a small family. They didn't have any descendants and even became poorer. But later, the 2 elders of the Qin family brought back a daughter-in-law from the Qingyu Hall in the town's east. Their family situation gradually improved. Today, the Qin family was divided into 5 branches. Each branch had 4 to 10 children, gradually showing the aura of a small family. Although 5 of the Qin family's sons had been separated, during the holidays, all of the family members had to return to the old house to pay their respects to the elders in the family. The scholar Qin Ming's parents had naturally passed away. The only person who accompanied him was his old wife. Chen Ming was familiar with poetry and books, but his old wife didn't know how to read and didn't have a name. Ordinary neighbors and juniors all respectfully called her Qin family's granny. The Qin family's granny was very benevolent and loved her family. She was even more filial to Qin Ming's parents. Chen Ming's parents were even closer to the Chen family's granny than to Chen Ming. Of course, Chen Ming's parents were good to the Chen family's granny not only because of their feelings for each other, but also because the Chen family's granny was good at managing the family. Because ever since the Chen family's granny married into the family, not only did the Chen family's financial situation improve, but in 10 years, the Chen family had added 6 sons. What made Chen Ming's parents unable to close their mouths was that these 6 sons were each more intelligent and strong than the next. Some were smart in reading, some were good at business. In short, every one of them was promising, and when they grew up, they would become outstanding. In the end, before Chen Ming's parents passed away, they still held the Chen family's granny's hand and sighed with emotion. Marrying this daughter-in-law was the Chen family's ancestral grave emitting green smoke. In the eyes of others, the Chen family's granny was good in everything, but there was one thing that no one understood. Even Chen Ming himself didn't understand it. That is, the Chen family's granny was kind to others, but never gave alms to the monks who came to beg for alms. Not only did she not give alms, but she also didn't allow her family to give alms. However, the Chen family's granny herself often went to a small temple about 100 li away from Jianghu town to give alms. Jianghu town originally didn't have a temple, but after Chuanzang's Nirvana Sutra, there were a few Buddhas from the Nirvana world who couldn't hold back their desire to become Buddhists. They followed Chuanzang's footsteps and began to develop their power in the hidden Immortal continent. Jianghu town didn't have a temple, and the temple that the Chen family's granny went to was only one of the few small temples in Liangqi County. On this day, the sun was shining brightly. The sun hung in the west and gradually set. In the Chen family's courtyard, under the shadow of a large Chinese parasol tree, the Chen family's granny was lying on a recliner with her eyes closed. Under those eyelids, a pair of eyes were randomly rolling left and right. 2 withered hands were tightly gripping the sides of the recliner, as if she was having a nightmare. "Father!" Suddenly, the Chen family's granny opened her eyes. 2 drops of turbid tears slowly flowed down her cheeks. Her eyes were filled with hatred and regret. After the Chen family's granny woke up, she was in a daze for a moment. Then she came to her senses. Just as she was about to wipe away her tears, a gust of wind suddenly blew in the courtyard. A cool breeze blew past, and a piece of leaf slowly drifted down from the Chinese parasol tree. "Sigh, I'm old this lifetime." The Chen family's granny raised her hand and used her rough hand to wipe away the tears at the corner of her eyes. That piece of leaf just happened to fall on her knee. Just as the Chen family's granny was about to brush away the leaf from the Chinese parasol tree, 2 figures suddenly appeared and blocked the sunlight that shone on her. The Chen family's granny was not surprised because her juniors often came to greet her. Since she was old and sleepy, her juniors would often stand respectfully by her side. When she slowly raised her head and narrowed her eyes to look at the people who came, she could not help but be stunned. This was because the people standing in front of her were a man and a woman. The man was tall and thin with slanted eyebrows. Although he did not look particularly handsome, the aura between his eyebrows was incomparably gentle. Not to mention the slight smile at the corner of the man's mouth, it actually made the Chen family's granny, who was in her 60s, feel her heart skip a beat. If the man could make the Chen family's granny's heart grow grass, then the woman beside the man could really make the Chen family's granny suffocate. This woman was dressed in palace attire and had a picturesque appearance. Although there was no special smile on her face, her moon-like eyes were filled with grace and gentleness. A feeling that made people want to worship her involuntarily rose in the heart of the Chen family's granny. Before the Chen family's granny could retract her gaze from the 2 people, the man asked in a gentle voice, "Are you Mao Chao?" Mao Chao? It was a familiar name, a name that she had not heard for a long time, a name that was deeply engraved in her memory. When she suddenly heard it, the Chen family's granny was stunned. Her body, which was about to straighten up, stiffened, and her heart turned cold. It was just like the moment she saw her mother fall to the ground and die. "Don't worry." The woman smiled faintly like a blooming spring flower. The Chen family's granny felt a little dizzy again. Give it a recommendation vote, bookmark it, or tip it. Thank you for all your support. Chapter 4655. After half a cup of tea's time, the Chen family's granny finally calmed down. She very naturally turned her head and looked towards the central room. There was also a reclining chair at the entrance of the central room. That was where Chen Ming was reading. However, when the Chen family's granny's gaze fell on Chen Ming, she saw that he was holding an ancient book in his hand. He was squinting his eyes as he strenuously read it. Beside him, there was also a young page boy serving him. However, at this moment, the two of them were like clay sculptures. They couldn't even move. One was flipping through the book while the other was holding a bamboo fan to light the stove. Not to mention them, even the flame in the small stove was still under the kettle. Great master? The Chen family's granny seemed to understand something. She hurriedly struggled to get up from the reclining chair. That reclining chair could be swayed. Normally, the Chen family's granny would have to rely on the support of the younger generation to get up. At this moment, how could she get up in a panic? The man slightly smiled. He stepped forward and carefully helped the Chen family's granny up. When the Chen family's granny saw that the man was personally helping her, she was even more terrified. She hurriedly wanted to salute. The man waved his hand and said with a smile, "Don't be so polite. Although you are young, you are already senile. If you salute this old man will feel apologetic in his heart." The Chen family's granny felt a huge force stopping her. She simply stopped saluting and carefully asked, "Great master is looking for me. Is there a reason?" The man nodded. "This old man's name is Xiaohua. You can call me Taoist Xiao. This old man came here today to verify something with you." At this point, Xiaohua paused for a moment. The smile on his face disappeared. He asked, "Presumably, you already know what it is?" Taoist Xiao? The Chen family's granny was already old. She didn't hear Xiaohua's last sentence clearly. Instead, she cried out in surprise, "You are that Taoist Xiao?" Xiaohua was stunned. He seemed to have thought of something. He glanced at Exen and asked, "This old man doesn't know the Taoist Xiao you are talking about. Who is it?" "Taoist Xiao, I am talking about that immortal rice." The Chen family's granny's face was filled with excitement. She said, "Taoist Xiao's rice. I should say, it's the immortal rice bestowed by Taoist Master Xiao." Chen family's granny's words were a bit unclear and even a bit incoherent. However, Xiaohua heard it clearly. He rubbed his nose in embarrassment, nodded and said, "You're right. I am that Taoist Xiao. Taoist Master Xiao, you are truly a living bodhisattva." Granny Chen takes 2 steps forward, grabs Xiaohua's Taoist robe and says, 30 years ago, our Jianghu town met with a disaster. All of our rice withered. If not for Taoist Zhao's immortal seed, my children would have starved to death. You are the real Guanyin Bodhisattva who saves people from suffering. You are more merciful than Amitabha." After hearing the Chen family's granny say a few words, Xiaohua's mood calmed down. He smiled and said, "Since you know this old man, then this matter will be easy to handle. Take a look and see if you know him." As he spoke, Xiaohua waved his hand, and the imprisoned 6-eared macaque was pulled out. However, the 6-eared macaque had transformed into Zhen Kong's appearance. When Granny Chen saw the 6-eared macaque, she was shocked. Her eyes flashed with ruthlessness. However, in a moment, she hurriedly retreated, and in a hurry, her body fell backward. Xiaohua did not need to raise his hand, as Exen had already supported Granny Chen from the side. Granny Chen had just stabilized herself when she immediately turned her head and looked towards the direction of the central room. The hatred in her eyes disappeared, and instead, it was replaced by fear. Chow, don't be afraid," Xiaohua said warmly. "This beast has already been imprisoned by this old man. It can no longer harm others. Today, this old man came to tell you the truth and avenge your parents." "Avenge? Avenge my parents?" When Granny Chen heard this, her originally stooped figure began to tremble. Her slightly fearful eyes lit up again, and her lips trembled as she said, But my parents' revenge has already been avenged." Xiaohua frowned slightly. After thinking for a moment, he pointed at the 6-eared macaque and said, "Do you think this is the real Zhen Kong or the fake Zhen Kong?" Granny Chen hesitated for a moment, then looked at Xiao Hua and Xin. She gritted her teeth and said, "This is the fake Zhen Kong." "But when Chuanzang asked you, why did you say it was the real Zhen Kong?" Xiao Hua naturally knew that Granny Chen would say this, but he still asked the same question. "No, Master Chuanzang did not ask me." Granny Chen seemed to remember the situation clearly. She replied, "It was that big pig called Zhenjie who asked me." Xiao Huan naturally did not care about this detail. He waved his hand and said, "No matter who asked, this old man wants to ask you. You knew that this was not the real Zhen Kong, so why did you say he was the real Zhen Kong?" Ha! At this point, Granny Chen seemed to have understood. She laughed loudly and said, "Zhenren Xiao, you are an immortal. You don't know what this little girl was thinking. At that time, this little girl was just a child. I did not know who was good and who was bad. How could this little girl dare to speak blindly? Besides, the real Zhen Kong killed my parents, and I'm powerless to avenge them. This fake Zhen Kong killed the real Zhen Kong, and I can't even thank him enough. Why should I expose him? AI, why is hatred so deep in your bones?" Xiao Hua sighed. "It's been almost 50 years, but you still haven't let it go." "How can I let it go? I originally had a father and mother who loved me. Although my home was shabby with my father and mother, I had everything. It was also that afternoon that I met that Zhen Kong. In the morning, my mother kindly went to deliver food to them, but instead, she was killed by them. My father merely asked them a few questions before he was killed by them. My entire life has changed because of this matter. How can I let it go?" Granny Chen seemed to have buried this matter in her stomach her whole life. Today, she happily said it out loud. Tears fell from her eyes. "Do you know, Taoist Xiao, I was still dreaming just now. In the dream, I was eating the small fish my mother fried, and that damn Zhen Kong rushed in and beat my mother to death with a stick. Although I can't remember mother's appearance, I still remember mother's bloodied clothes very clearly. Even now, I can still dream of this nightmare. How can you let it go?" "Namo Maitreya Buddha." Xiao Hua chanted the name of Buddha and said, "Actually, what you saw was only the surface." Then, Xiao Hua told her the truth about Mao Chao's parents being controlled by the control bug. Finally, he said, "Actually, it was this six-ear macaque who did this. He controlled your parents to harm Chuanzang. That Zhen Kong. He had no choice but to act in order to protect Chuanzang." "I know." Out of Xiao Hua's expectation, Granny Chen replied without hesitation. "When I was young, I didn't know. When I grew up, I understood. My parents must have been used by the fake Zhen Kong. That's why they were killed by the real Zhen Kong." "It's good that you know." Xiao Hua nodded. The real Zhen Kong was sent by this old man to protect Chuanzang. But he was killed by this six-ear macaque. Now that the sutra seeking extreme bliss is over, this bastard scheme has been exposed. This old man wants to kill him to avenge Zhen Kong. But he said that this old man doesn't have the right to kill him. In this world, the only one who has the right to decide whether he lives or dies is you. So this old man brought him here. Should I kill Zhen Kong and let him go? Granny Chen was stunned. She stared at the six-ear macaque for a moment. The six-ear macaque's eyes didn't seem to be pleading. There wasn't even a trace of emotion. Granny Chen raised her head and looked at Xiao Hua. "Of course I should let him go. Why should I kill him? He helped me take revenge for my parents." "Ah!" Xiao Hua was surprised. When he knew that the six-ear macaque was looking for Mao Chao, he already knew what the six-ear macaque meant. The six-ear macaque thought that Mao Chao didn't know that it was the six-ear macaque who used the control bug to control her parents. So, Mao Chao thought that the six-ear macaque was the one who helped her avenge her parents. But what Xiao Hua didn't understand was that Mao Chao already knew that the six-ear macaque was the one who killed her parents. Why would he let the six-ear macaque go? Sigh, Zhenren Xiao. Granny Chen sighed. Don't you think it's strange? Why is it that I know that this six-ear macaque used my parents to kill them, but I still feel grateful to him and don't want him to die? Indeed. Xiao Hua nodded and rubbed his nose. Granny Chen raised her head and looked in the direction of the East Sea. She said in a low voice, This place is not far from where I lived when I was young. But I never went back. Although the Qingyu hall that Master Chuanzong sent me to was very good, and I had good food and drink, and I even lived a good life in the Chen family. But all of this, it can't be compared to that broken house by the sea. Because I don't have parents in this world, even if I go back, I won't be able to see them. So I'm afraid that if I go back. Seeing that Granny Chen was reminiscing, Xiaohua smiled bitterly. But he didn't interrupt her. After all, a tragic childhood had already affected this old woman's whole life. Fortunately, after a while, Granny Chen said again, Zhenren Xiao, although I'm old, I'm not stupid. Although the six-ear macaque used my parents, I don't hate him. Because there are too many people in this world who are scheming against each other, deceiving each other and using each other. Compared to these people, the six-ear macaque's methods are nothing. Taoist Master Xiao, in my entire life, I have only been to Liangqi County. Most of my time has been spent in Jianghu town. My third son is a businessman. I have only followed him for 3 years in this small Jianghu town. In those 3 short years, I have seen all kinds of strange ways of using people. If this small town is like this, then what about the whole Liangqi County? What about the whole Jing province? What about the whole hidden Immortal continent? I often tell my son that other people can be used because they have value to be used. If a person has no value to be used, then there's no meaning to their existence. But after you use them, you must repay them. Even if you're scheming against them, don't be unscrupulous and don't be ruthless. Because it's normal to use people, but unscrupulous means can take people's lives. Chapter 46-56. Xiaohua sucked in a breath of cold air. He seemed to understand what Cao Cao wanted to say. Sure enough, Granny Chen cried again. Six-ear monkey used my parents. I really don't hate him because he wanted to achieve his goal. He wanted to join the Sutra of Bliss, so he had to use some tricks. The one I hate the most is Zheng Kong. My parents were controlled by the six-eared monkey. Even if they were controlled, they couldn't possibly be Zheng Kong's match. Zheng Kong had the means to subdue my parents, but he just killed them with a single strike of his staff. But, does killing them with one hit make him look strong? Would he be able to obtain more merit through this? Why can't he tie them up? Why can't he let them live? Well, Xiaohua was speechless. He hesitated for a moment and said, once the control bug is placed in a person's body, that person is no longer the same person. Even if they aren't killed, they will go crazy. They will no longer be the same person. I'd rather see a crazy father and mother than a senseless father and mother. Granny Chen shouted hysterically. As long as I can see them, I'll be at ease. My sky won't fall. Sigh, why is hatred so deep? Xiaohua actually understood Cao Cao's heart. He sighed. The hatred from decades ago made an old woman so stubborn. Actually, Xiaohua, Xen, who had been silent all this while, finally spoke up. You're also confused because of the situation. Aren't you also because of hatred? Aren't you also stubborn because of hatred? Xiaohua felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He was stunned on the spot and muttered to himself in a low voice, that's right. Because of hatred, Liao Chao couldn't tell who the real culprit was. She wholeheartedly wanted to avenge her parents, so she identified the six-eared macaque as Zheng Kong. Isn't that the same for me? I wanted to take revenge for Yuan Tongtian, so I didn't ask for the reason. Why did I insist on killing six-ear monkey? Actually, thinking about it now, Liao Chao's words were not without reason. If Zheng Kong used a different method to imprison Liao Chao's parents, then looked for Manjushri Bodhisattva and Taibai Jinxing, there might be a way to save Liao Chao's parents. Of course, it would be very troublesome to find these two people. With Yuan Tongtian's personality, he would never lower his head to ask for help. He would only use the simplest method. But the price of Yuan Tongtian's saving effort was the loss of his parents' lives. Then what about this Xiao now? It is easy to kill the six-eared macaque, but the six-eared macaque is still a life, and it is the reincarnation of Ananda. Do I have a more troublesome way? Is this a troublesome method that I don't want to provoke? Xiaohua glanced at the six-eared macaque lying on the ground and sighed. Sigh, as expected of Mahavairakana's first disciple, and also the first in wisdom. You didn't even beg for mercy, nor did you let the Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord or the Mahavairakana world lord plead for mercy. You only brought me to meet an old man of the secular world, which put me in a dilemma. Xiao Hua frowned, as if he couldn't make a decision. Xian didn't say anything and only accompanied him. After a while, Xiao Hua took out the Kunlun mirror. A pillar of light flashed, and Chun Zong appeared in midair. Great Master? Chen family's granny was crying emotionally. However, when she saw Chun Zong, she couldn't help but stop. She looked at Chun Zhang's appearance with teary eyes, which didn't change much. Lady Tanyu. Chun Zong looked at Chen family's granny in confusion, not knowing what had happened. This is Liao Chao. Xen reminded, you have left the East Sea for almost 50 years. She is also old. Chun Zong immediately understood and looked at Chen family's granny with a sigh. Chen family's granny couldn't hold it in anymore. She threw herself at Chun Zhang's knees as if she was a child who saw her parents. She cried, Great Master? Liao Chao. Chun Zong didn't hesitate. He stroked Chen family's granny's snow-white hair and asked gently, How have you been all these years? Good. Chen family's granny was sobbing, but she still nodded vigorously, as if she was afraid that Chun Zong would be worried. Seeing Chun Zhang's tears and Chen family's granny crying, Xiao Hua glared at Six-Eared Macaque and lifted his hand to remove the shackles on Six-Eared Macaque. He said coldly, Liao Chao, no matter what, this is her business. I didn't say that I would let you go. Yes, Bodhisattva. Six-Eared Macaque said respectfully, I understand. Actually, I invited Bodhisattva here to let you know. Bodhisattva, it's not wrong to let Fire Ape protect Master Chun Zong, but to let him participate in the sutra seeking extreme bliss is really inappropriate. I don't know if Bodhisattva is aware that the Fire Ape has protected Master for 200 years. It has killed 2,078 Dao sect cultivators and as many as 4,601 demons. Bodhisattva, that's almost 10,000 lives. If Master Chun Zong had not advised Fire Ape again and again to be merciful, he would not have cared about the lives of the human race. His magic wand has never spared anyone's life. Bodhisattva, tell me, what's the use of bringing the bloody Mahayana Sanzang to the Zhongxian continent? Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes. He really did not know what Six-Eared Macaque was talking about. But when he thought about Yuan Tongtian's arrogant personality, he knew that Six-Eared Macaque would not dare to lie to him. After all, Yuan Tongtian was a demon. In the eyes of the demons, the lives of the human race were not precious. Of course, those Taoist cultivators and demons who were tricked by Yuan Tongtian also had ulterior motives. Some of them even deserved it. Xiao Hua had personally killed one of them in the snowy mountains. But when Xiao Hua heard that so many humans and demons were killed by Yuan Tongtian, he could not help but feel a little shocked. Also, Bodhisattva, do you know why Fire Ape was imprisoned in Flaming Forest Swamp? Do you know why he went to Mount Million Meng to look for me? Six-Eared Macaque asked. When Six-Eared Macaque mentioned Flaming Forest Swamp, Xiao Hua's expression changed again. He hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Tell me. I don't want to talk about the specific reason. After all, Fire Ape is dead. If I talk about it after he's dead, it'll be like I'm trying to absolve myself. Six-Eared Macaque answered. I can only say that Fire Ape killed tens of thousands of Shui family disciples for some reason. That's why he was imprisoned under the lava. Shui family fell because of this. Shui family? Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat. He thought of Shui again. As for why Fire Ape came to Mount Million Meng to look for me, the reason is even simpler. Six-Eared Macaque sneered. He wanted to ask me for a secret technique to refine the Million Blood Orb. The Million Blood Orb. I don't need to tell you. I'm sure Bodhisattva already knows that it's refined with the blood essence of 10,000, 100,000, or even 1,000,000 living beings. Say no more. Xiao Hua said coldly. That's all in the past. Ever since Yuan Tongtian came to the 3 continents, he has turned over a new leaf. Turned over a new leaf? Six-Eared Macaque sneered again. Bodhisattva, I don't know where Fire Ape learned those skills from. If I'm not mistaken, it must be Bodhisattva who taught him. It's because he learned those skills that he stopped using unscrupulous means to cultivate. It's also because Bodhisattva asked him to protect Master Chunzong. That's why he stopped killing people. If he really turned over a new leaf, he wouldn't have killed people on the path to seeking scripture. Then, Six-Ears Macaque looked at Chun Tong and said, "As for your disciple, besides the time I committed a crime in Million Meng Mountains and the time I killed the fire ape, I've never killed anyone in the past 1,000 years. Bodhisattva, I'm the one who's turning over a new leaf, right? You don't have to talk about others. You're all so unscrupulous." Xiao Hua said coldly, "Why did you kill Master Huaqin in Mount Million Meng? Was it because of the rejuvenation pill? Didn't you also kill people for your own cultivation? The one you killed was a highly respected master craftsman in Mount Million Meng." "Yes, I don't deny it." Six-Eared Macaque nodded. "However, the rejuvenation pill wasn't my main goal. I'm good at listening and I can see the truth. So, I know that some things can be done and some things can't be done. As for the master craftsman that Bodhisattva mentioned, do you know how many soul beasts he had killed in order to craft artifacts? You're saying?" Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes. "You know that after killing Master Huaqin, you'll be able to come to the Western Paradise?" Six-Eared Macaque answered without hesitation. "Then, do you know if I'll kill you this time?" Xiao Hua asked. Looking at the murderous intent on Xiao Hua's face, Six-Eared Macaque answered honestly, "I don't know anything about Bodhisattva, just like the Mahavairakana revered Buddha, Dipankara archaic Buddha, and Maitreya Buddha." Six-Eared Macaque hesitated for a moment. Then he narrowed his eyes and said, "However, I do know that Bodhisattva has the power to kill me, but that's just power. Bodhisattva isn't heaven and earth. Bodhisattva doesn't have the right to punish me. Bodhisattva killed me based on his own preferences." Xiao Hua had already decided to kill him. That day in Longevity Town, even when facing the Dipankara archaic Buddha, Xiao Hua did not hesitate to capture Six-Eared Macaque, the victorious devil-slaying Buddha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha did not say anything either. On the way to Jianghu Town, Xiao Hua had expected Liao Chao to react this way. However, he did not expect Liao Chao to not hate Six-Eared Macaque even though he knew that Six-Eared Macaque was the culprit. On top of that, Six-Eared Macaque had told Xiao Hua about Yuan Tongtian's misdeeds in the past and his killing today. Xiao Hua could not refute it. Chapter 4657. In particular, there were two sentences that Xiao Hua was deeply moved by. The first one was, "Why is hatred so deep?" This was what Xiao Hua said to Mao Chao, and it was also what Xn said to Xiao Hua. Mao Chao could not let go of his hatred for Yuan Tongtian, and he himself had not let go of his hatred for Six-Eared Macaque. In other words, he had no right to criticize Mao Chao. The second one was, "Bodhisattva has the power to kill his disciple, but this is power. Bodhisattva is not heaven and earth, and Bodhisattva has no right to condemn his disciple. Bodhisattva kills his disciple because of his own preferences." This was what Six-Eared Macaque said to Xiao Hua. If this was before, Xiao Hua would have harumphed and said, "I may not be heaven and earth, but I am the master of justice. I am heaven and earth, and I have the right to condemn you." Unfortunately, Six-Eared Macaque and Yuan Tongtian's misdeeds, Xiao Hua could not rely on his love for Yuan Tongtian and Yuan Tongtian's loyalty to him to say that he had the right to condemn him. But Six-Eared Macaque did kill Yuan Tongtian, and Yuan Tongtian was under Xiao Hua's orders to protect Chunzong. Xiao Hua did have the right to kill Six-Eared Macaque to avenge Yuan Tongtian. Xiao Hua sneered and raised his hand. "Six-Eared Macaque, no matter how glib your tongue is, I will not let you go. It's fine." Six-Eared Macaque closed his eyes and answered calmly, as if he was facing death. "Bodhisattva, do as you wish." Xian wanted to say something, but she knew that since Xiao Hua had already made his decision, she shouldn't stop him, even if she felt that what Xiao Hua did wasn't particularly appropriate. At this moment, Granny Chen had stopped crying. She asked in a low voice, "Master, the sutra praying in nirvana has ended. Your merit has been completed. I'm sure Master is going to spread Buddhism in the longevity town and enlighten people. I dare not ask for anything, but there is a small temple about 100 miles away from Jianghu town. Can you go there and preach? Chun Zong put his palms together. Amitba, of course. But I can only preach for 3 days. After 3 days I will still be going to the west. Granny Chen was surprised. Didn't you already take the scriptures? Where are you going? Of course we're heading there. Chun Zong smiled but did not answer. Granny Chen asked again, who will protect the great master? Chun Jie opened his mouth and said with a wry smile, we still need the Buddha to send a fated person. Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat when he heard that. At the same time, Xen whispered, Xiao Hua, it's easy to kill six-eared macaque, but six-eared macaque is still a life, and it's the reincarnation of Ananda. Why can't Xiao Hua think of a more troublesome way to make him atone for his sins? For example, escorting Chuanzong to the west to seek scriptures. Can it be considered as continuing Zhenkong's legacy and continuing to protect Chuanzong? If that's the case, then it's naturally good, but... Xiao Hua nodded, but then he gritted his teeth and said, this is really letting this fellow off too easily. Actually, it might not be cheap. Xen smiled and said, the path of seeking sutras is very dangerous, and the future is unknown. In my opinion, it is much more troublesome than death. Jinkong. Xiao Hua thought for a while, then shouted, since that's the case, this old man will let you live in this life. However, from now on, not only must you protect Chuanzong well, you cannot return to the Pure Land if you don't go to the west to seek sutras. Also, the grudge between you and Yuan Tongtian in this life has already ended. If there is a next life, there must be a cause and effect. Are you willing? Amitba, this disciple is willing. Six-eared macaque heard Xiao Hua call him Zhenkong, and he understood what Xiao Hua meant. When Xiao Hua finished speaking, he didn't feel any joy or sorrow. He put his palms together and said, this disciple is willing to use my strength to protect Master Chuanzong and seek sutras in the West. Of course, this disciple also hopes that when he sees Zhenkong again, he will no longer be the bloodthirsty Zhenkong. This is not something for you to think about. You just have to be yourself. Xiao Hua replied calmly. Many thanks, great merciful Guanyin Bodhisattva. Hearing Xiao Hua let six-eared macaque go, Chuanzong was delighted. It wasn't that he liked six-eared macaque or Zhenkong, but he didn't want Xiao Hua to break the rule of killing, and he didn't want to see any living thing die. Forget it. Xiao Hua helped Chuanzong up and said, Chuanzong, this old man will wait for you here for 3 days. When you finish your preaching, I will send you back to Longevity Town, and you can continue to seek sutras in the West. Amitba. Chuanzong laughed. Even the Bodhisattva is obsessed. As long as there are people who seek sutras, and have the heart to seek sutras, there is no Longevity Town. He indeed. Xiao Hua patted his forehead and laughed. This old man is dizzy from Zhenkong. This disciple doesn't dare. Six-eared macaque hurriedly replied. Xiao Hua raised his hand and took out the Kunlun mirror. As it shook, Zhenjie also came out. When the Chen family's granny saw the big pig appear again, she couldn't help but tear up. Granny? Poor they. At this time, a lively and cute girl ran out from the central room. Seeing that Zhenjie and Zhenkong didn't know fear, she asked in surprise. Shuang? The Chen family's granny was shocked. She hurriedly looked over and saw that the people who were imprisoned just now were all moving, as if everything they saw was just a dream. However, at this time, Chuanzong, Zhenjie, and Zhenkong were still beside the Chen family's granny. Xiao Hua and Xen had already disappeared. This disciple respectfully sends off Guanyin Bodhisattva. Chuanzong and the others saw this and hurriedly put their palms together and bowed to the sky. The Chen family's granny also hurriedly kowtowed. Whoosh. 3 scattered lights fell from the sky and landed in front of Chuanzong, Zhenjie, and Zhenkong. The 3 of them looked over and saw that it was the 3 shaman puppets. Xiao Hua's voice came from the sky. This item is bestowed to the 3 of you. It can save you from a life or death disaster. When this item breaks, this old man will know and will appear in time. However, It is better to be safe than sorry. There is nothing absolute in this world. You all still have to rely on yourselves. Thank you, Bodhisattva. Chuanzong was really happy. Just as he was about to thank Xiaohua, 2 emerald green pills fell in front of the Qin family's granny. Xiaohua's voice came again. Chow Chow, Yuan Tong Tian caused your family to be destroyed. This old man will compensate for him. This is a Taoist pill. Although it is ordinary, it is extraordinary to ordinary people. You and your husband will each have one. After consuming it, it can extend your life by 100 years. Thank you, great Guanyin Bodhisattva. The Qin family's granny was very happy. She took the pills and kowtowed again. In the sky, Xiaohua and Xan had already flown far away. Xan looked at Xiaohua with her beautiful eyes and smiled. Xiaohua, I didn't expect that the stingy you would have a generous time. Not only did you spare the 6-eared macaque's life, you also gave Chow Chow 2 pills. Those 2 pills are really nothing. If it was possible, this old man wanted to give her 2 rejuvenation pills. Unfortunately, the rejuvenation pills are not for ordinary people to consume. Xiaohua shook his head. Of course, even the rejuvenation pills are nothing compared to the happiness Chow Chow lost. That's right, happiness is priceless. Xan seemed to have thought of something and said sadly, especially the happiness of being at the knees of father and mother. However, in just a moment, Xan realized that her words were inappropriate. She quickly forced a smile and said, But, Xiaohua, you can let go of your hatred. You are really the great Guanyin Bodhisattva. Sometimes, you have to let go even if you don't want to. Even if you don't want to let go. Xiaohua was about to explain when he suddenly stopped in midair. He looked into the distance and said coldly, Since you're here, why don't you show yourself? Xan was shocked. A green light flashed in her hand and she was about to take out the Xinyuan water control flag. Amitabha! A faint Buddhist chant came and a Buddhist light appeared in the sky not far away. This Buddhist light was like a lotus and a Buddha Lord stepped out from the lotus. However, this Buddha Lord was a little strange. Half of his golden body was shining like the sun while the other half was extremely dry and dark. Moreover, the light behind the Buddha Lord's head was half bright and half dark. Great! Mahavairakana Venerable of the World? Although Xiaohua had never seen Mahavairakana Venerable of the World, when he saw the Buddha Lord's aura, Xiaohua already understood. He couldn't help but cry out in surprise, What happened to you? Amitabha, fate is tribulation and tribulation is karma. Mahavairakana Venerable of the World's expression didn't change. He put his palms together and said, I made a mistake, so I naturally have to face tribulation. Hiss. Xiaohua took a breath and seemed to understand something. Not only did he not feel happy, but his heart sank. He took a breath and said in surprise, Venerable of the World, the real and fake chastity. Has such a big impact? Namo Great Merciful Guanyin Bodhisattva is indeed the most famous bodhisattva in our Buddhism sect. Mahavairakana Venerable of the World didn't answer Xiaohua's question. Instead, he praised, although Bodhisattva used her physical body to prove the Buddhist fruit of our Buddhism sect, in the matter of the real and fake chastity, she didn't cause karma because of selfishness. She was merciful and showed the Buddha's heart, not stained by dust on the mirror platform. She is 100 times better than me. Amitabha! Xiaohua was even more shocked. A layer of cold sweat actually appeared on his back. He put his palms together and glanced at Xan. His eyes were full of gratification. Then, he looked at Mahavairakana Venerable of the World and said, As Venerable of the World said, this matter. No need to say it, no need to mention it. Mahavairakana Venerable of the World smiled and said, There will be a time when the truth comes to light. At that time, all karma will be known. Amitabha! Disciple understands. Since Xiaohua was the Namo Great Merciful Guanyin Bodhisattva, he naturally had to meet Mahavairakana Venerable of the World as a disciple.